What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today, as you can tell, I have a super long Reddit video for y'all. It's a compilation of some of my favorite of the older stories that we've done here on the channel. Just thought it would be something you guys would find entertaining. If you appreciate the super long video, be sure to press the like button, and without further ado, enjoy. I got promoted while shopping at a store I don't work at. So yesterday I was at my favorite local supermarket. I've been shopping there pretty much once a week for the past 6 years, so I know the place like the back of my hand, and I know most of the employees by name because I live in a small town of under 4,000 people. As I'm standing in the taco aisle trying to decide exactly how hard to punish my bathroom later, I picked ghost pepper salsa, so a lot. I'm approached by a woman who must have been 75 if she was a day. SL will be sweet lady and I will be myself. Son, can you help me locate the aluminum foil? Sure, right up this way. And I walked her to aisle 7B. It's pretty high up. Let me grab it for you. Do you want Reynolds or the store brand? The name brand, please. And I handed her a 200-foot roll. Do you need help finding anything else? I'm a walking directory of the store. She handed me her shopping list, and I spent about 10 minutes filling her cart with heavy and hard to reach items, and then I went back to my shopping with a smile and said, "Have a great day." As I'm standing in the checkout, I see the lady arguing with the floor manager, Greg. He goes to my church and we're familiar with each other over by the express line. I pay for my groceries and walk over to be nosy and maybe help out. She's telling Greg that the guy with the big red beard helped her and I didn't get his name, and she wants to see him get a bonus, promotion, or employee of the month something. Greg is insistent that no one with that description works there, and I get to the counter, and before I can explain I don't work there, Greg pipes up. "Oh, you mean Mark? Yeah, he's one of our best employees. Mark, this lady over here has been singing your praises for the past 5 minutes. I didn't even know you were working today." Well, Sharon, a cashier I know, called me and said we were slammed, so I came in on my day off. Well, that's some real initiative. How you'd like to be assistant to the regional manager. We're both huge Office fans. Oh my god, thank you. Are you sure? Well, you've definitely earned it. See, this is why I shop here instead of Walmart, even though you guys charge more. You care about your employees, and your employees care about your customers. So that is how I became assistant to the regional manager at a store I'm not even employed by. Honestly, I know you don't work there, but this is a pretty sweet situation, and I love the fact everyone just played along. Don't confuse the old lady even more. Just pretend Greg is now overlord of the entire world next time. Really step things up. Show him that you care. What's up, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Today we're going to be looking at a subreddit I don't think I've ever covered on the channel, which is r/I don't work here lady. Basically just about awkward situations where people have been thought to be a worker of a store. Sometimes they're mean, sometimes they're sweet, like helping old ladies. But regardless, I figured it would be something you guys will enjoy, so without further ado, let's hop on into it. Some assembly required. Good luck. This happened several years ago. I was the nighttime charge nurse over at the ICU. I'd just finished up a 12-hour shift at my hospital that had turned into a 14-hour shift because of rapid response right before shift change. The patient responded well. I was exhausted and had to return for a fourth shift in 9 hours, and all I wanted were some items to drop in the slow cooker so I'd have something to eat when I got up tonight. I stopped at a well-known big box store that sells groceries, clothes, electronics, the works. I'm wearing royal blue scrubs and a name badge with a big RN under it, and forgot to take my stethoscope off, so it's hanging around my neck, and the employees here, well, don't. As I'm walking towards the store, I see an elderly couple struggling to load a large box in their SUV parked in front of the store. And I mean old, 90 plus, shaky hands, teetering around with limited mobility. The kind I see with a med list 3 pages long, so no way would his hips take the weight without snapping, and I've worked enough tonight. So I approached quickly and addressed the female half of the couple offering help, and it was gladly accepted, and I got the TV loaded up with very little difficulty. It was more cumbersome than heavy, and I'm chatting with the woman who's explaining it's a gift for their son and her husband hadn't wanted to wait for help. I was wondering why an employee wasn't helping, and that's when it happened. Hey! Startled, we stop our conversation and look over, and it's a lady in her 50s dressed in cheap-looking beige pantsuits with a get-your-manager hairstyle about 15 feet away with her
her hand on her overly broad hip. "If you're about done, I need help over here." She then points to her cart with 2 boxes of bookshelves, some assembly required, and I realize she thinks I work here. "Oh, sorry, I don't work." "You're already making me late. Just get it done and don't scratch up my pant." The elder lady and I exchange looks of disbelief and I try again. "I don't work here. Just get it done." She then steps away from her cart to grab her purse, grumbling something about idiots, and is digging around for her keys when the cart rolls further away and one of the wheels goes off the curb. The entire uneven load causes the cart to topple over, and I jump forward to try to prevent everything from falling. I was unsuccessful, and the woman, who has now turned to see her particle board bookshelves spilled out on the cement, corners of the boxes crushed, and one has torn open in a few pieces, and packaging now exposed, and she completely loses it, becoming a raging thunderstruck. "Oh, what the heck, you moron? Pick them up! Oh my god, I'm gonna have you fired! You owe me new bookshelves, and I'm late!" At this point, I'm done. "Pick them up yourself. I don't work here." I then turn to go inside when I feel her grab my sleeves and try to yank me around, so I jerk my sleeve out of the grip and turn to face her now violently red face, and she opens her mouth and starts screaming again, but I put my finger in her face and say, "No, don't touch me. Shut up. I do not work here, and even if I did, I'd quit before I help you clean your crap up." And she stood there, speechless, mouth opening and closing, sputtering in shock that I've dared raise my voice at her. That's when the manager and an employee come out, and the woman sees the manager and finds her voice. "Are you the manager? This man damaged my bookshelves and is refusing to pay for them." I just stare in shock. Seriously, having realized that a man in bright blue scrubs with a stethoscope and a big RN badge really doesn't work here, instead of apologizing, she chooses to double down on the craziness and accuse me of breaking her stuff. Before I can find my voice and voice my denial, the elderly gentleman I'd helped earlier steps in and explains the situation to the manager, and the woman is still voicing complaints, but the manager realizes the situation and apologizes to me and the couple. I'm standing by, watching angrily as the manager deals with the woman and inspects the bookshelves, and they're not damaged. He offers her new boxes, but she's done with the whole situation and says no, she's already late because of me, and just glares over at me and says to the manager, "Just load them. I'm late already enough because of this." The manager and employee then lift up the boxes and wedge them into her car. As I shake my head and go to enter the store, I'm stopped by the elderly lady I'd helped earlier. "Sir, thank you so much for helping us with the TV. I'm so sorry people are so rude." She then reaches for my hand to give a shake, and as she folds both her fragile hands around mine, I can feel something in her palm she's giving me. "Don't look yet. Wait until she leaves." I slide the package into my scrub pocket, and the lady walks away, and then she gets into her car without apologizing or thanking anyone, peels out, and drives away. I finally enter the store to grab my food items when I reach into the pocket and pull out a plastic bag with a bunch of screws and hardware. I realize immediately that the sweet old lady took advantage of the commotion and stole the hardware out of the ripped box. I couldn't believe it. I had the biggest grin on my face as I did my shopping, and I have a new petty revenge hero to idolize. I want to be as petty as that old lady when I'm 90, you know, because that's not like self-destructively petty, that's not ruining someone's life petty, no. That's just annoying the ever-living crap out of somebody who deserves it. How do you not immediately know that the dude with the stethoscope on obviously does not work for this store? Like, I'm just not understanding how you can even possibly get that confused. Oh yeah, did you know that they also hired doctors to work stocking shelves here and loading stuff, just in case someone has a medical emergency? They always want to have one close. That doesn't make much sense now, does it? Okay? Like, let's be honest. I don't even know how you have this issue. I just got fired. I never thought I would experience this in my lifetime. I'm a hard worker, extremely dependable and respectful, and I'm not sure how I could lose a job like this, especially when I only just got it. So I work late, and just about every night for the last few weeks at least, I stop by Walmart to get something for dinner, and I usually get off around midnight and stop by on my way home. Every time I'm at Walmart, barely anyone is there except for the night crew stocking up the store and doing their own thing. Now, from what I've noticed, they don't have much of a uniform. Many of them are in hoodies or jackets or different colors, just to add some context. So I show up last night and I'm wearing a hoodie, and I begin to walk up and down the aisles trying to figure out what I want for dinner. I'm thinking pasta and walk past a few guys who are loading shelves, and all of a sudden I start hearing this guy yelling. The voice gets louder. Hey, are you listening?" I turn to see what's going on, and the guy approaches me. "You're late again. Don't think I haven't noticed you walking in the door store after 12. I begin to laugh, thinking this guy is joking around, but before I can say anything, he jumps on me. Oh, you think this is funny? Your job must not be that important to you. I want you to follow me to the office. Now I'm completely confused and start looking around like I'm on some hidden camera show, and he starts to walk off and I turn around and go back to shopping. He comes back a minute later and starts to yell, "You want to be fired? Because if you don't come with me now, I'll fire you." I start to laugh even harder and then ask him, "What's my name?" And he gives me a look, so I asked him again, "What's my name? Do you even know who I am?" He looks at the other guys in the aisle who have stopped stocking the shelves at this point to watch this unfold, and then he looks back at me, trying to figure out what exactly to say back before his head explodes. Good luck filling out the paperwork to fire me when you don't even know my name, and I continue to laugh at this whole stupid charade, and I pick up some ingredients for spaghetti, trying to give this guy a clue. He storms off and I look at the other guys in the aisle. I'm sure he'll figure out eventually that I don't work here. They start laughing and I go on, and I can't believe I lost the job I just found out I had the same night. I just love that he came back multiple times to talk to this dude and at no point realized he doesn't work here. And I even more love the fact that all the workers that were watching this go down definitely realize they don't know who you are and you don't work here, but just let their boss continue throwing a tantrum. That's the way to go about it, okay? As long as he's throwing a tantrum, you're not actually having to do any work. So go ahead, let him scream at absolutely everybody in the store. Sure, you might lose some customers, but who cares, man? It's his problem. You're not the one in charge. I know it's your number, but quite some time ago, my girlfriend and I, who's now my wife of more than 15 years, moved in together and had to set up all the things. Cable, internet, phone, all that. We got our home phone number, our 2 cell phones, and we're off to the races. Almost immediately, we start getting calls for an establishment that does custom framing and various other art-related things. Let's call them Expo for Art. Of course, we had caller ID and we had friends that would call us, but inevitably, if we didn't recognize the number, it was something wanting to find out something about their order, or their frame was done, or what the hours were, or any thousands of other questions you would ask Expo for Art. I'm sure anyone else who had this happen will recognize the exchange. Sorry, that's no longer their number, this is a residence. Yes, I'm sure. No, I'm not giving you my address. No, I don't know their new number. Yes, I have a phone book, but so do you. Eventually, after thousands of these, and changing the message on our answering machine to say, "This is not, I repeat, not Expo for Art. If you're trying to reach Expo for Art, please hang up, look up their number, and try that, because we're not them." Eventually, I got my gazillionth call, and I asked the other person on the end of the line where they kept getting this number, and they said, "It's printed on the receipt, so I guess I'll just call the other number." So I asked him, "Any chance you can give me that one? Thanks." And I call it.
Hello, Expo for Art.
You guys are still giving out my home phone number on your receipts.
Yeah, so?
Well, stop it. It's been at least a year since you've had that number. At least cross it out or something.
That's a pain. I'm not making employees do that.
So you're the manager?
I'm the owner.
So let me see if I have this right. What's your name again? Let's call him Fred. You, Fred, have just decided it's too inconvenient to cross my home phone number off your receipt, so you're just gonna keep giving it out.
Yep. What are you gonna do, sue me?
Maybe.
Whatever, I got stuff to do. Bye.
I called a lawyer and didn't really have a leg to stand on, so I went to the store and asked for Fred, and they told me that Fred's not here. He's hardly ever here. In fact, you want me to call him? No, I'm fine. This is gonna sound odd, but is there any chance I can see one of the receipts? So she picked up a receipt book and shows it to me, and sure enough, it's got my phone number at the top above another one. I say, "I thought so. I couldn't get you at the other number. Some guy yelled at me, and I don't have my old receipt, so I had to come down here." We've been having that happen a lot, ever since Fred decided we didn't need 2 phone lines, but we had just bought 20 boxes of these receipt books and business cards, and he's too cheap to buy more until they run out, and I'd hate to be that guy. Yeah, it would suck to be that guy, I replied. So I went home and hatched my evil plan. The next phone number I didn't recognize, I said, "Hello, Expo for Art." "Hi, this is Mary Smith. I dropped off a thing last week to be framed. Is it ready yet?" "Let me check. Yeah, actually, we finished it this morning. I hope you don't mind, but we decided to upgrade the matting because of the weight of the piece." It's the same color and I won't be charging you for it since it was my decision. Oh, thank you. I'll be down to pick it up later today. What time do you close? I looked down at the business card with my number and the hours clearly marked 11 to 4. Take your time. We'll be here until 7. Thank you so much. Can you please tell me how much that was? $19.99, ma'am, plus tax, so $21.39. Wow, that's cheap. Are you sure? Of course. If anyone has a problem, tell them that you talked to Fred. Okay, see you around 6. See you then. Thank you for calling Expo for Art. For weeks, I kept giving out completely random information. How much is a 36 by 48 matted frame? Let's say $25. Wow, that's cheap. How much to have it done custom? How they want it? Well, custom's an extra $10, so $35. Wow, that's cheap. I'll be right down. What was your name? Oh yeah, Fred? See you in 10, Fred. How much to have the entire front page of the New York Times from 9/11 mounted and framed? $34 unless you want our special proprietary newspaper frame and mat service. Only $50 and guaranteed for life, only at Expo for Art, and tell them that Fred sent you. I can only imagine the number of pissed off people who showed up to pick up orders that weren't ready, and when they finally were given a price way higher than what Fred told them on the phone. Eventually, someone let it slip that they called the number on the receipt, and that's what Fred had told them, and Fred was not happy. Hello, thank you for calling Expo for Art. This is Fred.
You are not Fred. I'm Fred. Are you trying to put me out of business?
Why, Fred, whatever would you mean?
Someone has been giving prices to my customers and telling them that their orders are ready when they're not due for weeks.
Well, Fred, who called them?
Nobody called them. They called us.
Then what's the problem? If someone called you and got pricing information, that would seem to be your problem.
They didn't call me. They called you.
Well, how did that happen?
Your number is on my receipts and business cards.
My. It seems there's a very simple solution here. Take my number off your receipts and business cards.
Do you have any idea how much promotional materials cost?
Well, is it more than it costs to do these jobs for the prices that you're quoting? Is it more than it costs to lose customers? Or is it less than that?
This is extortion!
Call it what you want, Fred. The choices and consequences are entirely up to you. A week later, hello, Expo for Art, this is Fred.
I've ordered new receipt books and cards. Can you please stop this crap?
Sure. Bye, Fred. I don't really know what he expected you to do, bro. First of all, just like having a bunch of business material with the wrong phone number seems like a very stupid thing to do, even if you already had a bunch made. And on top of it, why are you just gonna be so unnecessarily mean to someone pointing out an issue? What are you gonna do, sue me? No, instead I'm just gonna impersonate you and run your business into the ground, big dog. What you gotta say about that instead? To Fred, wherever you are out there, man, I hope Expo for Art is still pumping, but I hope you've realized that you might be an absolute idiot. I did not accept the job. Now please let me enjoy my holiday. This happened about 4 years ago when I was looking for work. My second interview was for a marketing position at a new firm, and the interview went well and I was offered a trial shift the following Monday. On turning up, it became clear that this wasn't a marketing job, but a door-to-door sales job for what was basically a huge multi-level marketing scheme. This service was to sign people up for charities on monthly donations, and to make matters worse, we were told to lie to consumers about our pay status, because we were making commissions effective to the first 2 months of their donations. My boss would then get another month and the company would get the rest, equivalent to 6 months of donation. But we weren't supposed to tell people that and had to tell them we were salary, which we weren't, and I only found out during the trail it was commercial only, or trial, sorry. So far, not so good. When they offer me the job, I let them know I have another interview lined up the following day and I'll let them know by the end of the week. The interview goes well and it's a real, albeit temporary role, and I'm offered the job and inform the MLM of my decision. This is somehow a 30-minute call where he's trying to convince me to work for him with me saying I'm not interested at all. Fast forward to the next Monday and suddenly I'm rudely awoken at 9:15 with a phone call and I answer to this. I hadn't saved his number. Hello, this is me speaking.
Where the hell are you?
Sorry, what? You were meant to be here at 8:30. This isn't a good start to your first day, is it? Why are you so late? Sorry, but who is this? It's not the interviewer from blank. You know, the company you work for. It's too late now as your team has left, but you better be on time tomorrow. Sorry, there must have been a misunderstanding. I got offered a job at this different place and accepted the role. Sorry for that. Well, you should have told us. It's not professional to just not turn up, and we would have hired someone else. Now your team is short-staffed. I told the interviewer maybe check with him. Anyways, I gotta go. Bye. Hoping this is resolved, I get up and go about my day, and on Tuesday morning, I'm awoken again to the same guy demanding reasons for me not turning up to work. Apparently, not working for them is not a valid excuse. This amazingly continued until the following Monday, where I was told I was let go for unauthorized absences. When asked if this means he'll stop calling me, he told me to grow up and be professional about it. I think I dodged a bullet there. Well, I love how apparently not working there is not a valid excuse. What other excuse could they possibly want? I mean, honestly, like if not working there is not a reason to show up, how do they keep track of anything? You know how many people are like probably just randomly showing up, getting one day of working and dipping? I don't understand why they didn't get this resolved any quicker either. You're like, hey man, I talked to the dude. He said that it wasn't my problem, so I was just assuming it wasn't my problem. Nah, let's just keep calling him for a week and annoying him instead. That's obviously the best course of action. Forget anything else.
Caveman, speak.
So in the 90s, I rented a large workshop with two friends. I was a woodworker and the other two were metal workers, so obviously none of us resembled the previous business which had installed skylights in any way. Anyways, cue the customer of a previous business named C. I've condensed this as the verbatim conversation because it went on for a very, very long time. Arrives at my door is C, who was a real Karen. I need repairs done to the skylights you installed. Sorry, that business has moved and I don't know where they are now. No, I need you to send someone over now. The skylights are leaking. As I said, that business has gone. We are a different company. No, right now. I repeated the above at least a half a dozen times, and about now I'm realizing I'm dealing with either a genuine loony or someone too entitled to listen to common sense, so I try another tactic and decide to try it again in caveman speak.
Skylight business gone, new business come. You talking to new business now, understand? No skylight here. Look in phone book. Go away now.
And she ended up leaving in a big huff. It's all about communications, folks. Oh man, honestly, this is a pretty good idea. If someone's ever annoying you, just go full caveman. Why did you leave your dishes in the sink?
Me no do dishes. Me want to hunt deer with bow. You do dishes.
You know, you get your quarterly report in late, the boss comes in, they're like, dude, where is the quarterly report? We can't file our taxes until it's done.
What is quarter? I pay with dinosaur bone.
I don't work here anymore, and no, I will not come into work. Last holiday season, I worked seasonally for Target. It was a disaster from the start. The managers had no organization whatsoever, and I should have known when they scheduled me for my second interview and the manager didn't show up that I was screwed. Towards the end of the holiday season, after Christmas and before New Year's, they offered me a non-seasonal part-time position, and I was going to accept it, but they wanted me to work a ton for part-time. And being a college student, they were not willing to be flexible at all, so I said, nope, I'm done after my last day on January 6th. Everything was good after I was done with that train wreck, and I was off starting my second semester, when on January 20th at 5 p.m., I get a call from Target. Hey, this is blank. Are you running a little late? You were supposed to work at 4:30. No, I quit over 3 weeks ago. Well, we're really short-staffed. Can you come in anyways? No, I don't work there anymore. I told you that and I'm at school. Are you sure you can't come in anyways? Thank goodness I'm done with that disaster. And since this holiday season's coming up, I got a job at a different place, thanks goodness. Man, I just feel like Target's got to be really upset about this one, you know? They're like, no, someone's making us look bad. Quick, get the PR team on its stat. It's okay, you're a department store. I'm assuming all department stores are absolute train wrecks. You know, there's just a lot of workers. The managers probably don't really want to be there either. So, yeah, from time to time, you're going to end up getting called and told to come back into work even when you're across the country. Ma'am, for the 50th time, I cannot give you your son's password. For a little background, I work at IT at my college. Usually I work in the back so I don't have to deal with people, but once a week I get to grace the help desk. My school gives its student a lot of privacy and they can decide what the school can release to other people when they come for orientation. It ranges from we're an open book to we can't verify the student's existence. This student selected that we cannot verify his existence, which applies to everyone that is not an immediate family member. So be me, bored out of my skull, watching the minutes tick by for the last 5 5 minutes of my shift ready to get dinner. I get a call from whom shall be known as Apache, a very aggressive helicopter parent, hence the attack helicopter. Thank you for calling my school's IT help desk. How can I help you? Hello, my name is Apache and my son goes to the school but is having trouble logging in to our online panel for students. Can you give me his password? I'm sorry to hear you're having trouble. However, we do not keep students' passwords on record. If he's having issues, he can reset it online, call us, or come down to the building we're in to come get it fixed. Well, then can I get it reset then? He really needs to get in. I'm sorry, but it has to be him who asked to get it reset. I can't do it for anyone else. But I'm his mother. I can reset it for him. I'm sorry, but it has to be him who comes in and gets it reset. It can't be done by anyone else, even his immediate family. But I'm his mother. I've done everything for him. I understand that, but college policy states that only the student can request a password reset. I'm his mother, you incompetent piece of crap. Give me his password now. At this point, I know it's about to get fun. I look at my manager, who's totally awesome and loves stuff like this, and signal her to get on the line and listen. I understand your frustration, but I can't go against college policy. I would recommend that you call your son and tell him to call us to get his password reset. Now you listen to me, you little turd. If you don't reset her son and the person I know's password right now, I'm gonna get you fired. Her son was one of the guys who lived on my floor and I knew, but wasn't really friends with. Okay, let me talk to my manager and see what I can do. I go back to my manager, who is already smiling about this lady, and I tell her I know this guy, and if it's alright, I'll text him and let him know his mom's on the phone asking for his password since it's about his account, and she says go for it. Yo, buddy, your mom's on the phone cursing me out because I won't change your password. Did you need it reset? What? No, I know my password. Why is she calling you? She's saying you forgot your password and is going off the walls. I put her on hold and I'm sure she's steaming at this point. Wait. What's her name? Apache? Dude, that's not even my mom, it's my stepmom. If you remember from the very beginning, this student had selected the I don't exist to the outside world privacy package, so now we could have even more fun with the attack helicopter parent. I went back on the phone. Hello? Apache? Yes, what took you so long? Sorry, I was looking over some information and I don't see you on our files anywhere being related to the student. So what? I just want my son's password. I'm sorry, but we have parents of our students on record and you're not any of them. He's my stepson. That's a son. I'm sorry, but we can't release any information at all to anyone that's not an immediate family member. He goes to the school and I'm his mother. Give me his password. I'm sorry, I cannot verify the student's enrollment at our school. What does that mean, you little turd? I'm gonna have you fired. At this point, my manager is giving me the cut the call signal, so I just told her, I'm sorry I couldn't be more helpful. Thank you for calling the school. Have a nice day. Don't you hang up on me, you little... Click. It was now 5:04, 4 minutes past the end of my shift, so I got up and left, and apparently she called back 5 minutes later and went ballistic on one of the other nerds who worked at the desk. Helicopter parents, I promise you're not doing your kid any favors by always doing everything for them, you know, especially if you're going behind their back to change the password. What were you gonna do when your son went to log in and now his password was different? It's gonna be okay. You got them to college. It's time for you to let them do their own thing a little bit. They don't need you constantly hovering over them. I also love that she was just gonna hack her son's emails, bro. Like, that's definitely what was going on here. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today we're gonna be taking a look at the subreddit Tales from Tech Support. It's one of my favorites, you know, just because it's entertaining, dude. But you guys also tend to enjoy it, so I figured why not make another one. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. I need you to fix Google Bing immediately. Another tale from the out hours of the IT desk. Google Bing isn't working. Is the system down? It's very important I use the Bing. Yes, the caller actually said the Bing. I'm sorry, can you confirm which system you're referring to, as I'm unfamiliar with that. Google Bing. Really? How can you not know this? Google Bing is not a system we support out of our hours, nor in hours. This sounds like a mashup between two different search engines. What exactly is happening? I need Google Bing to do my job. This is unacceptable. I can't find Google Bing anywhere on my PC. How dare you remove it? I need you to fix Google Bing immediately. May I remote in to take a look? I spent about 5 minutes setting up a remote connection. Turns out the caller had a shortcut on her desktop called Google Bing. This opened the Bing search homepage in Google Chrome. I shivered. She'd accidentally changed the name of the shortcut from Google Bing to something else and therefore couldn't find it. Alright, it's been renamed now, so you're good to go. Next time, don't mess around with my computer. I know you guys changed this. I'm not stupid. I have a certificate of proficiency in computering. Okay, thanks for calling. Click. And yeah, the caller really did say computering. I died a little bit inside after taking this call. Come on, man. Obviously, you hacked into her computer just to delete the Google Bing shortcut so that way she couldn't do her work, alright? She caught on to you, dude, but you're caught. There's no way you can spin this on Reddit. Do people still use Bing? Like, I know some people did, right? But I always figured it wasn't by choice. I didn't realize that people chose to use Bing, especially in Google Chrome, where, like, you can just search anything in the top bar and it'll Google it automatically. Company policy is that we do not pay for overtime. Yeah, sure, okay, whatever. Sometimes as a consultant, you get to see how an office functions from an outside perspective. Since you're an independent contractor, the company treats you differently than an employee, and also, just due to the nature of contract work, your engagement is usually short-term. This makes you a temporary fixture, and sometimes you are just treated as a fly on the wall like you don't exist. And this can lead to some interesting observations, including seeing train wrecks in progress. This is one of those tales. Not so much about the nuts and bolts of tech support, but more about the people and some good old-fashioned just desserts. As a consultant, you're always going to be the IT guy, whether you like it or not. No matter how you market your services, every single company is going to assume you do anything with a computer. And when business is slow, it's not a bad thing if you just need work. About 10 years ago, I found myself in a situation. I got an inquiry through my website asking about assistance deploying some workstations and other mundane tasks. Usually I'd pass on this kind of work, but it was winter and the other client work was dry that month. A guy still has to pay the bills, so I followed up and within a day the scope of the work was signed. It was pretty easy stuff. The company had its own IT department, just needed some extra hands, so I was going to be one of 3 outside contractors deployed to some workstations, do some server admin work, and set up some other equipment for a new department. The money wasn't the best, but it was time I had free and it was all swing shift work, which meant no traffic and I got to sleep in, which wasn't that bad. I reported as requested at about 3 p.m. to talk about our contract. There was a senior engineer in charge of part of the IT department there, and he said he didn't really have time to do anything more than a quick introduction as they were slammed with work. He showed us the ropes and left us to it, and between the 3 of us, we break down our specialties and parse out the work. Everyone knows this is a cakewalk of a job and just wants to get it done as the pay was a flat rate. I take the server work and see my contact, who is the system administrator. Figuring he was probably gone for the day as it was mid-evening and I was just gonna leave him a note asking him to call me, but to my surprise he was still at his desk. In fact, just about everyone in the IT department were milling around. I didn't think much of it at the time, just that it was one busy department and the guys must be pulling double shifts. He showed me the systems and I get to work. Around midnight we were wrapping up for the night and 3 of us break down what we have left with the senior engineer who's still on site. The plan was to wait until Friday to deploy the workstations and get everything in place, but the senior engineer says most of the team will be there all weekend anyhow, so it doesn't matter to him. I left thinking, man, that's a busy place. Those guys must be pulling down the overtime. I wonder what is going on that they have so much work, as I walked out the door that night. Soon enough, I would find out about the deal. So I headed to the work site a little early on Friday, figuring that if we all pulled a long night, we should be able to wrap it up and get the weekend back. Things were going great and we were ahead of schedule, so the senior engineer offered to take us out to a local diner while we waited for the office to close up so we could deploy workstations without tripping over people. At the dinner, the senior engineer started to explain, I want to thank you guys for all your hard work. We all are overworked, and when we got approval for this contract job, everyone was excited. Hey man, glad to be of service. Looks like you guys are crazy busy. Is everyone pulling doubles and doing weekends to handle your ticket load? Oh, we're understaffed, so we all have to pull extra hours. That sucks, but it must be great overtime. Overtime? Yeah, not really. We're all salaried, some loophole or something. We just put in the time because we all need the job right now. The conversation trailed off from there, but it left me thinking. In this state, most IT workers are eligible for overtime as a matter of law. There's no loophole or something like that. Something's not right. Anyways, back at the work site, I'm in the network closet with the system administrator, hooking up some ports and finishing the server work. He's a friendly guy, so we start chatting. I was talking to your buddy and it seems like you guys work insane hours here. I was trying to fish for a little information. Oh yeah, it's been like this for a year. 60 hours is a light week, week these days. It's bullcrap. Yeah, the other guy said that you don't get overtime? That's what the boss tells us. Let me show you something. He pulls up an email exchange he had with the manager, and it's dated about 10 months ago and makes the very point I thought the entire department should be getting overtime and how the law requires it. And his boss's response in bold in caps was it's company policy to not pay any overtime for working more than 40 hours. It's a part with the job, deal with it or find another place to work. Then the system administrator smirked and showed me his response. Sure, okay, whatever. His emphasis. And that was at the end of the exchange. Look, I'm not a lawyer, but you might want to call up the labor department because I'm pretty sure it's illegal for you guys to not be getting overtime. Then, to my surprise, the system administrator pulls up another email from his personal account. Oh, it's blatantly illegal, and I asked a lawyer, and this was his response. He showed me a memo explaining the law and that most of likely a lawsuit would be successful, and this was dated 9 months ago. I was a little confused at this point. So you guys know you should be getting overtime, but not getting paid, and everyone's okay with it? Oh, we all make sure to log our hours and document the time. I was still a little bit confused, but you aren't getting actually paid overtime. No, but we will, and here's the kicker. According to the lawyer, the labor department will look back at the hours we put in for the last 12 months and award us retroactive overtime. So all of us just log our time and keep records, and then in about a month we're gonna file a claim altogether. The company's gonna be on the hook for all the overtime, and they won't be allowed to fire any of us for reporting it either. And then the coup de grace. We all figured when this whole thing started off, if we pressed the point back then, they would find out a way to screw us. So we all decided to stay quiet and put in the time they tell us to work, and we'll get our bonus check when it's all said and done, if this stuff is all backdated. And honestly, that was some stone cold strategizing. How many hours do you think you guys have piled up? Honestly, it's hard to tell. Everyone keeps their own paper logs to keep it quiet. We also don't talk about it too much so nothing gets out. But last time we met outside of work, it was a boatload of time. I figure for myself, they'll owe me 14 months of salary and overtime, and that's when it's all said and done. Adding up damages, penalties, interest, it'll probably be 2 years of pay. Holy crap. So if the guys don't talk about it and seem eager to work all these long hours, now you know why. We finished up the job that night, and I exchanged contact information with a few guys and said if they had any other contract work, think about giving me a call. And that was it until 3 months later. I'm at another job and an email comes in from the system administrator with the subject line, overtime claim. Hey IT guy, hope you're doing well. We all ended up filing a big overtime claim with the state, and the company fired us for supposedly falsifying our timesheets. The lawyer's sorting it all out, but anyways, I wanted to know if I could give your name to an investigator who's looking for witnesses to verify some of the extra hours we work. I agreed to talk to the investigator and got a call a week later. He asked me some routine questions about times and dates and wanted me to email him some proof I did the job. Then he started going into the details of the case. We got this company for probably $1 million in overtime and damages between all the guys in the department, plus the firing is probably illegal, so that's gonna be another few $100,000 on top of it. The insurance company wants to settle once we wrap up the due diligence work. I think the guys are all gonna make out rather nicely. I didn't hear anything for a while until another email came with the subject, reply, overtime claim. Just wanted to let you know we settled the whole thing. The company caved pretty quickly once it was clear we kept honest logs of the time, and the local management violated parent company regulations for the site of making their site budget look better. I can't go into details, but we all got sizable checks, enough to pay off loans and go back to school. I'll have to find a new job after I get my grad degree. I don't think it'll be an issue. Appreciate you talking to the investigators. Thanks, IT guy. Basically, the company tried to tell its employees they were not overtime eligible despite being legally required to pay it, and then worked them to the bone, and they came up with a scheme to bank ignorance. The plan worked out, and they were out several $1 million because of inept management. I don't even know what to say about this one, especially when you email the boss and say, listen bro, you're giving us way too much overtime, you gotta pay us. And they say, it's company policy. I'm not sure if he's aware of the fact that company policy doesn't necessarily overrule the law. Was that what they told the judge? No, you don't understand. We're legally required to pay overtime, but we didn't want to. You deleted all my files. IT saw a ticket had come in and it was from a confused woman, and it said, "You deleted all my files, I need them to do my job." IT called the woman to see what was going on because we don't delete personal files from people's computers unless there's good reason and we have permission. So while he was gone the phone, he remotes into the computer and notices everything but the recycling bin is missing on the desktop. And he notices that there's files in the recycling bin, so he opened it and all the files were there. "Here's all your old files, did you move them in here?" "Yes, I did. I moved them into the recycle bin so they will be clean for me to work on them." "Excuse me?" "Yeah, I moved them to the recycle bin to make them new again so I can reuse the files." "This is the trash bin. You would move the files here to delete them off the computer." "It's not a trash can, it's a recycling bin. It says so underneath the icon." So for the next half hour, my buddy had to teach her how to use the recycling bin. To be fair, it is not a trash can. Obvious to everybody who uses technology, but if you're like some old person who doesn't really get it too much, I can understand how it might be a little bit confusing. "You don't put trash in the recycling bin." It's like, "Grandma, we know, okay, but it also isn't refreshing your files and making it more fresh." Company-wide email plus 30,000 employees plus autoresponders equals chaos. I witnessed this astounding IT meltdown at around 2004 in a large academic organization. An employee decided to send a broad solicitation about her need for a local apartment, and she happened to discover and use allemployees@org.edu. It was a type of email address that included everyone, and by everyone, I mean every employee in a 30,000 employee academic institution. Everyone from the CEO on down received this lady's apartment inquiry. Of course, this kicked off the usual round of "why am I getting this" and "take me off this list" and "OMG, everyone stop replying" messages. Each replied to allemployees@org.edu, so 30,000 new messages. The email started to bog down as 500,000 messages apparated into mailboxes. IT fail number one was not necessarily making allemployees@org.edu email address. That would be reasonable, but granting unrestricted access to it was what I didn't understand. You could have configured it on the mail server to check the sender and generate the "not the CEO, not authorized" reply. That wasn't the real problem. The incident might have simmered down after people stopped responding. However, in a 30,000 employee organization, lots of people go on vacation. And some of them, let's say 20, remember to set their email to an auto-respond about their absence. And the autoresponders responded to the same recipients, including allemployees@org.edu. So every "I don't care about your apartment" message didn't generate 30,000 copies of itself. It also generated 30,000 times 20, or about 600,000 new messages. Even the avalanche of apparent apartment messages became drowned out by the volume of "I'll be gone till November" auto replies. This also wasn't the real problem, which again might have died down by itself. The real problem was the mail servers were quite diligent, and the autoresponders didn't just send one "I'm away" message, they sent an "I'm away" message in response to every incoming message, including the "I'm away" messages of the other autoresponders. The autoresponse avalanche converted the entire mail system into an Agent Smith-like replication factory of away messages as autoresponders incessantly informed not every employee, but also each other about employee status. The email system melted down and everything went offline. A 30K wide enterprise suddenly had no email for 24 hours. But that's not the end of the story. The IT staff buried themselves with mucking out the mailbox from these millions of messages and deactivating autoresponders. They brought the email system back online, and their first order of business was to send out an email explaining the cause of the problem, and they addressed it to allemployees@org.edu. But before they sent their email messages, they disabled most of the autoresponders, but missed at least one. Oh, so they just had to do the entire thing all over again? At least it wasn't 600,000 this time, it was just, 300,000. Honestly, bro, I don't understand how you don't double check that every autoresponder is off before you send another email. And also, definitely just turn off that email address. Just delete it. How to fix a laptop that won't boot in under a minute. Last year at the help desk, I got a call from a user complaining that the laptop we issued him would not read DVDs. He was one of the "I'm a very busy and important man and don't have time to follow your troubleshooting steps over the phone, just fix it" kind of guys. So he said he'd get someone to drop it off at our office and pick up a loaner. We received the laptop a couple days later, and there was a note attached saying it wasn't even booting into Windows anymore. And sure enough, he was right. It didn't even attempt to load Windows, and instead we were greeted by the "non-system disk" or "disk error" message. It sounded and looked like the PC was trying to boot from the DVD drive instead of the hard drive. We opened up the disk tray and saw the culprit. There was a DVD in there all right, but it was upside down, and we flipped the disc over, and he was trying to watch Dumb and Dumber. Oh man, the fact that he's trying to watch Dumb and Dumber and also put it upside down, bruh, he's the dumbest, that's for sure. Listen, I'm too important. I don't have time to follow your troubleshooting over the phone. Well, maybe just flip the disc over, bro. You ever thought about that? What's the worst customer you've ever had to deal with? Today at work, we started talking about the worst customers we've ever had to deal with. I work at a quick lube place in town, and once we had a regular couple come in and just grease the fittings on their car. I tell them we can take care of it and tell the guy who's working underneath what the deal is. A couple minutes later, the guy tells me the car doesn't have any fittings to grease. I go down to verify that he's right and tell the customers they don't have to worry about greasing them because they're sealed. To this, the customer begins to tell me that I'm taking advantage of him because he's handicapped. The customer is blind and his wife was driving the car. I tell the guy there's nothing in it for me to lie to him, and I wasn't going to charge him anything to do this, but even if I was, he's not paying for anything at all anyway. To this, he replies that all kids today care about is money and dope, and threatens to have his brother-in-law come in and have a chat with me. I told him to send him down and I'd tell him the same thing because I don't understand what the problem is. After about 10 more minutes of arguing with the guy, they leave dissatisfied. Fast forward a couple hours later, this big guy walks in saying that his brother-in-law called saying I was trying to take advantage of him. I tell him the story and he tells me that his brother went to another shop who also told him that he didn't have anything to grease. I asked him why he was there then, and he said he wanted to make sure I wasn't taking advantage of the handicapped. I asked him how he thought I was taking advantage of anyone, to which he told me just not to do it and left. What's worse is the couple still comes in all the time, and neither one of them has ever complimented me for staying clean. Wait, so he's mad that you didn't lie to him and rip him off? Like, I just don't really understand what he's so upset about. You told him there was nothing to grease, and he's like, how dare you? I especially love him sending in his brother-in-law, like, okay, I'm gonna have him come down here and straighten you out. You didn't rip him off, did you? No, I didn't. Okay, well, don't rip off people. I didn't. Okay, well, I'm reminding you not to ever again. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. Today, we're going to be taking a look at this Ask Reddit thread I found about the worst customers people have ever had to deal with, because I found it entertaining, so without further ado, let's go. Many years ago, I used to pick up TVs for repair from customers' homes. I arrived at this house, and an elderly woman answered the door and showed me in. She turned on her very old TV to show me the problem, and I could see it was a blown tube and likely beyond economic repair, and told her so. She said, no, you fix it now. I explained that I couldn't do that and that her best option was to buy a replacement, either new or used. And as I'm telling her this, a figure appeared in the doorway behind her, moaning and staggering into the room. It was an elderly man in gaping pajamas with a long strand of thick drool hanging from his lower lip, and the woman said, ignore him, my husband has Alzheimer's, fix the TV. I began explaining that I couldn't do that, but while I was doing so, the woman started just yelling over and over again, fix it. And the husband kept staggering towards me like a demented zombie, moaning louder and louder and getting more agitated, with his strand of drool getting longer and longer and swaying below his chin level as he kept advancing. I said, I'm sorry, but I'll have to go back to the shop now, at which the woman screamed, no, and ran to the door that led to the hallway and slammed it shut, and stood in front of me with her arms outstretched to block my escape. The husband just kept advancing with his drool getting longer and his moaning, raising in pitch to a kind of wailing as I backed up until I was pinned between them both. All the time me saying to the woman, I have to leave, and her screaming, no, fix it. The husband was within a couple inches of me and his swinging drool nearly touching my arm, and I was pressed against the woman when I turned and as gently as possible pushed her out of the way, pulled open the door and ran out of the room and out the front door to my van. As I started the engine up and pulled away, the woman was standing outside her front door, screaming obscenities at me, and her husband was staggering about the front yard, groaning and crying with drool all down his chest, and his Johnson now visible through the gape in his pajamas, an image forever burned into my brain. Alright, I do feel bad for the dude with Alzheimer's just because he's obviously not too aware of everything going on. You know, my great-grandparents had it. The disease sucks. That being said, dude, I feel like the wife should be in better control of what's going on. You can't just let him, like, zombie maybe walk around with his Johnson hanging out in the front yard. He needs somebody that's gonna maybe keep a little bit of a better eye on him at this point. Maybe it's better for the both of you to go to a home. I also think it might be time, just because if she's gonna keep like trying to kidnap TV repairmen, it's probably not the safest place to be. Fix it. Fix it. It sounds like a horror movie, like a cult waiting to happen. I walked in and the floor is crunchy, and I look down to see a name tag from our competitor on a pile of human bones. In high school, I worked at a car wash. While I was wiping rail dust out of a guy's rims, he swung the door open and hit me square on the top of the head and dropped me like a stone. He then proceeded to berate me for being stupid and slow for not getting the soap film off of his rocker panels. That I couldn't see because I was A, on the other side of the door, and 2, trying to regain my senses. I stood up and handed my towel to the floor manager and said, "Ask me when you're done with him," and I walked out of the back of the garage. Fast forward 6 years, I'm bartending at a local family establishment, and the same guy comes in with his wife, and from the first minute, he's complaining about stuff. I'm pleasant but brief with them, and eventually they decide they'd like to eat in the bar and ask for menu. I get them their menus, and after serving a few more patrons, I walk over with a pad and pen to take their order, and he says, "You're gonna take our order? I thought I'd get one of those hot blonde waitresses." His wife was visibly uncomfortable, so I shot back, "Your wife called ahead and asked for a young stud bartender." After the meal, she slid me $5 under her plate when he was complaining about the food. About a month later, in the same restaurant, he totally unloaded on a waitress for no reason. I was bartending and kicked him out, and he lost his mind, screaming about how he knew the owner his whole life and I was done working there. I pulled out the owner's business card, handed it to him, and said, "Bob gets in at 9, that's his number." 11 the next morning, the owner called me and said, "I heard you kicked out Tyson last night," and I said, "Yes, I did," and explained the scenario. He paused for a few seconds and said, "You did the right thing. He's a jerk. When you're on my side of the bar, it's your bar and they're your staff. Keep it up." Alright, obviously I've made my fair share of videos on Karens, and here's the thing. I could see how maybe, you're really hangry, you've had a bad day, so you start, getting pissy with the manager of a grocery store or whatever one time. I could see how it might happen. That being said, if you're screaming at every waitress and waiter that's ever encountered you, just smacking people with car doors, and then the owner that you apparently know so well backs up the people kicking you out, you just might be a jerk, bro. I don't know what to do if you're this bad at being liked by people. I work tech support for a cable company. A customer calls in asking why his television wasn't working, and come to find out the customer's television wasn't working because his electricity was turned off. And then he argued with me for an hour about how it shouldn't matter, that he's paying for a service and we need to guarantee it no matter what. The customer was certain that we were the only company that still required televisions to be connected to utility power, and then went on about how it must be because the service is not digital like our competitors. "No, you guys don't understand. I'm paying the cable bill, so you're supposed to provide a battery-powered system to make my TV work even if my power's turned off." I love how he has no power in his apartment and his priorities are still somehow getting the TV on, man. Maybe if you spent less time worrying about the TV and more time, working, the power would still be on. I had a guy at Pizza Hut once that came in irate about something wrong with his pizzas that had been delivered. He was screaming at my cashier, who came to me and got me because she was afraid, and I was the only manager on staff at the time, so I'm sitting here trying to talk sense into him. He is demanding that I give him back the merchant copy of the credit card receipt because I don't want you having anything with my signature on it. I tried explaining it to him 3 times that we're not legally allowed to hand it over, and I went as so far to pick up the cash register's monitor and show him that in the system his transaction was canceled. He insisted that I hand it over, and I finally tell him, "Look, I'm not going to hand it over no matter how much you keep yelling. You can either leave now or I'll call the cops. Keep in mind that I have your name, phone number, address, and a credit card, and a video of you screaming at me and my cashier." At this point, he lunges at me and snatches for the receipt. He tears the top half off and storms out of the store. He only got the top part of the receipt showing his order and left behind the signature and tip line. By the way, his entire escapade was because he wanted to make sure the driver didn't get the $3 tip that he signed for. I love the idea of getting bad pizza delivered, getting in your car, driving it to the store, right? They give you a refund and then being like, "No, you're not getting anything with my signature." They gave you the money, bro. They already have your address. They already have all the information you need. The copy of your signature doesn't really matter at this point, especially to the point of assaulting the manager, "All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start punching people until you give me my autograph back." No one knows who you are, bro. They don't want it that bad. I used to work at Old Navy a few years years back, a regular retail job, and was doing pretty well. One day, I'm working the changing area, and this dude comes in and tries on pants or something, and then comes out. He starts doing the old pat down of his stuff to make sure he's got everything, and then just freezes, whips around, looks straight at me, and goes, "You stole my keys." Now, this whole time, I was never in possession of his pants or property at any point, so I calmly tell him that I do not have them and they're probably in the changing area. He checks and doesn't find them, comes back out and starts screaming at me to give him back his keys, and finally wants to see the manager. So the manager comes over and tries to comprehend the situation, and she's like, "I doubt he took your things, sir," and trying to defuse the situation calmly. So the dude starts cursing her out and calls the cops. I was literally speechless, and the cops show up 5-10 minutes later, take down all the information, and my manager tells me to go to the back room and take a break while it gets sorted out. In the back, I still hear this dude trying to freak out because the keys belong to a mental institution and I might try to sneak all the weirdos out. After another 5 minutes, my manager comes to the back and tells me the dude did not check his back pocket and that was where the keys were. She made him apologize to me and told him to leave, and I was so confused, but it's funny looking back. Imagine bringing keys that are so important that they lock up an entire institution into the changing room at Old Navy, probably something you want to just leave in the car, and on top of that, not checking all of your pockets before literally calling the cops on some random person that never had your pants. I just don't understand why you're so headstrong that you're willing to call the cops before you check all of your pockets. Or like, why did he pick someone to take his keys? Way more likely they fell out of your pocket in the changing room or something than like some sneaky Old Navy employee going out of his way to steal the keys just to teach you a lesson about key safety. I was working in a general store while in high school, in the UK for context, and we had a decent hardware section that sold cheap tools. One day, just before closing, a guy and his friends come in and they're your standard chavs. So I'm on alert. Because it's closing time, the supervisor is around, so she does the covert follow them around the store while I stay where I am. Eventually, they come up to the counter and one of them puts down some cheap box cutters and nothing else while others mill around the door. My supervisor behind them and I decide this isn't right, so I ask him for ID. I don't know why I thought this was going to stop them. The guy was mid-20s, I must have been 18 or so I'm probably older than you, is what he says. I'm not really checking for age, I'm just trying to stall them for some reason. But I guess I decided that if they were buying these for an attack or something, that they wouldn't want to be identified. I might have been right, I suppose, cause he refused. This went back and forth for a bit, him getting angrier and angrier until he finally slapped down a piece of paper on the counter telling me it's his ID. I looked at it and it's a court summons for assault. It could have gotten worse from there, but they left after I asked them to, so there's not any awesome story or triumph after that or anything. Still, a pack of guys tried to buy a pack of knives at 6 p.m. and tried to prove they were okay to be sold by proving that they were suspected of assault and implicitly threatening me. I just love that you were like, "Hey, give me your ID." They refused to do it and then slam an assault paper on the ground. It's like, okay, dude, now I really can't sell you the box cutters. I really didn't have much ground to stand on before, but I definitely can't now. It's just weird they wouldn't ID themselves unless they were buying them for some reason that wasn't good, you know? Like you said, mid-20s, definitely got the ID on them ready to go, for sure. I have plenty of terrible customer stories, but exposure to biohazards pisses me off the most. I worked for Kohl's right out of high school, mostly as a customer service associate doing returns and such. Kohl's policy, at least how it was interpreted in my store, was to pretty much take back anything that a customer would like to return. Literally anything. There had even been times where we were instructed to return items from competing department stores when a customer had put up a fuss. So by the time this woman came in, I had been pretty much given up on denying any returns and just let management deal with it on the back end. She was in her mid-20s and had a diva attitude and tossed the bag on the counter with the item she wanted to return, not bothering to take it out like most people, and just handed me the receipt. I pulled out the item to see it was a black teddy, as in women's lingerie, and began inspecting it to see if it had the original tags or had been washed. Being a black piece of fabric, the long white crusty stain became apparent very quickly, and there wasn't any doubt what it was, and the look on her face confirmed it, and all I said was, "Really? Really?" and gave her a shameful look. I then picked up the 2 plastic hangers and used them as tongs to pick it up and walk it over to the trash, and very dramatically released it into the trash, all while giving her the WTF look. I then, without saying anything, went over and returned the item, gave her back her money, and hoped my embarrassing scene caused her to think twice before doing it again. Bro, people are next level disgusting. What is going on in Kohl's where it's like, the return purge? I feel like it's a horrible strategy to just accept all returns no matter what. Because yeah, dude, people are going to start returning underwear with dookie stains on them next. I couldn't imagine ever taking something that I hadn't cleaned to a store and expecting the worker to touch it, let alone something like that, bro. Like, come on. Oh, when it first opened up with exposure to biohazards, I had no clue where it was going to go with that. I was the sales manager in a business-to-business type operation, and we manufactured components that other manufacturers use in production. Most of my customers were great, and even though I left the company 8 years ago, some are still good friends. There were only 2 real hotheads I remember. I once had the president of one of our medium-sized customers call me up cursing up a storm because the parts he wanted today were not sitting on the shelf and it would take 2 weeks to make it. I told him if he stopped cursing at me, I might be able to help him, and if not, I'm gonna hang up, and he kept cursing, so I hung up, and my boss was entirely supportive, even though we never got an order from them again. Another time, I was out on a sales call with a customer that had some issue I don't remember, but I knew I was right about it and he was wrong. When I tried to explain it to him what really happened and why he was wrong, he told me that if you're calling me a liar, you can leave, so I got up and left and didn't even say a word because I didn't have to and never got another order from him either. Both of the above customer companies went out of business during the time I built my side business from $6 million to almost $15 million a year in sales. I just feel like if you're gonna be screaming, swearing at somebody that has parts that you desperately need, 9 times out of 10 it's not gonna end well for you, Business is kind of about understanding what the situation at hand is. And sometimes the situation is you gotta be really nice to the dude that has the parts you need because he's the only person who has it. Stop swearing at me and I can help you out. And he's just like, no, I would rather make my life way more difficult. That's on him, bro. Well, I've told this to multiple people and never written it, so here it goes. This happened about 1.5 years ago, and I worked the night shift as a shift manager at McDonald's. I showed up at around 8 p.m. and left at 6 in the morning. I come into work that night and see that our credit card machine connected to the front POS machine was broken, so no credit or debit in the lobby. About an hour in, a couple and their son come into the lobby ready to order, and I inform them that we are not able to accept credit or debit. The father seems a little disturbed by this fact and says that that's all he has. Now, I was taught to help the customer in any way possible, so my solution was to let one of the employees take the order on paper, ring it up at the drive-thru and pay for it with that machine, and everything would go as planned and they receive their food and go sit and eat. This is the bad part. About 10 minutes pass and the father comes up to me and pulls me aside, and the first thing he says to me is that I'm a piece of crap. As you could probably see, I was floored because I went out of my way to make sure he could get his food, and he proceeds to call me out as a liar for saying the front machine could not be broken because the one in the back was working fine. He even tells me that I made him look like a fool in front of his family for making him look poor. I have no idea to that part, and he keeps calling me out and I can't say anything back because I need this job. Living in Michigan, you need any kind of job. All I can say is I was sorry for the inconvenience, and after they leave, everyone working keeps asking what happened, and I truthfully told them I had no idea. Now, thinking that was done, I could get back to work. Nope, about 10 minutes later, we receive a phone call, and turns out it's the same guy calling to ream me out again, but yet again, I can't do anything but apologize. To this day, I have no idea what raged him so much to curse me out not once, but twice. I'm just not understanding how you made him look poor by just taking his money and running it at another machine. Like, what? Does he think there's levels to credit card machines and somehow the one in the back of the store is worse? I also love that, if the one in the back works, the one in the front can't be broken. All right, bro, let me break this down for you. If I have 2 computers, can one of them be broken and the other one not be broken? If the answer to that question is yes, okay, then congratulations, you understand how it works. And if you answered no to that question, well, then you just don't know how any of this works, so just go ahead and go sit in the corner, buddy. I'll run your card on the back machine. In the IT section I work in, all of our customers are internal company staff, but that doesn't stop them from occasionally being bad customers. On one occasion, we were requested to upload a new template. This should have been easy. The owner of the template does all of the updates, gives it to IT, we check it and make sure it will work with the macros and upload it. This time, however, the owner of the template was asked to make changes by the marketing department as they had ordered some new paper and the template needed to be changed to fit it. This started a massive fight between the two departments due to, in a nutshell, I'll spare you the details, neither side listening to the other. We found out that the owner of the template had demanded that the marketing department take ownership because we give up, and therefore the request to IT came from marketing. Our templates are delivered through Word, and we therefore are surprised to receive the template in a PDF format, which starts another fight. We explain that it's impossible to deliver the template in PDF format via Word, and if they wanted it in PDF, we could format it and it would be much better to be delivered that way via the internet. Nope, they wanted it to open in Word, but in PDF format, so the text couldn't be changed. I began to see what the original owner of the template meant. Again, I'll spare you the details, but cut to 3 months later when upper management gets involved, and the new template was delivered in Word to format and be updated. 2 weeks later, a help desk ticket was logged because apparently you print multiple copies of it at a time on the new paper, the paper catches fire. We were then asked to urgently roll back to the old version. I'm shocked how many of these stories rely on like someone in the company not believing the IT guy when he says something IT related. It's like, hey, believe it or not, you know, the guy that you pay to run the IT department is probably pretty knowledgeable about technology, so when they say it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work. Nah, just use our version. Proceeds to make a fire every time someone prints multiple copies of it. What type of formatting did they use that caused printers to literally burst into flames? I've never heard of that, but it sounds extremely intense, dude. Probably should have just listened to the IT department on what to do with technology. I used to work in a butcher and a guy came in to order some obscure amount, I think like 6.37 kilograms of beef mince. He demanded that I make 3 different bags of completely different weights because he was having friends over and wanted to pay for them to pay the exact amount of beef they ate. I was new at the time and had little experience with the complicated and ancient tills, so this was incredibly stressful and time-consuming. After finally making up the bags, he decided I was wrong and demanded I do it again. The other customers were getting very impatient and I was beginning to get anxious, so I politely suggested I give him 1 bag and he as his friends split the bill evenly later. He took extreme offense to that idea and told me to F myself, threw the bags on the floor, spilling meat everywhere and stormed off swearing. This upset a few of the other customers and they left too, and the manager watched the whole thing happen, and as a result, I wasn't paid for my work that day and was demoted back to cleaning. Imagine like going over to someone's house for dinner, right? You eat the food, it's pretty good, and then they hand you a bill and they're like, that's how much you owe me for what you just ate. I feel like this is the weirdest interaction I've ever heard of. And even if you're pissed that somebody points out that it's weird, do you really need to throw the meat all over the ground, man? I mean, come on. Taking ground beef to an entirely new level it just didn't have to be at. Okay, Reddit, tell me your glitch in the Matrix story. This will probably get buried, but when I was around 20 a few years ago, I kept having dreams about a woman with long black hair named Aurora. They were different dreams, but for some reason, her distinct face and name always ended up in them. It got to the point where I would wake up frustrated and confused, trying to Google her name or find out how I was connected to her. After a few months, she stopped showing up and I dismissed it, thinking my brain was being a scumbag. Fast forward a few years later, it's Halloween 2009 and I'm in the car with a friend stopped at a gas station. I'm about to pull out and merge onto a highway when I get a phone call from a random number, so I stop the car but no one answers. There was a person behind me who grew impatient, honked at me, and then swerved in front of me instead of waiting 2 seconds for me to move. The second they got on the highway, some silver Civic lost control of the wheel and crashed into the car that swerved in front of me. I called the cops and waited at the gas station for them to come, and it turns out the drivers of both cars passed away. It would 100% have been me if I hadn't have got that phone call. I called it back a few hours later out of gratitude and curiosity, and it rang 3 times and went to voicemail. Hi, you've reached Aurora. Please leave your name and number. I had never had goosebumps like that in my entire life. I called it again the next day, but I was confused about the whole situation, and some woman answered and we got to talking. I told her my story, including the dreams I had, and she tells me she doesn't know how I got her number and she never called me as far as she remembers. Weird. I asked if she has a Facebook to confirm she's in fact the woman that was in my dreams. I check her Facebook, and it was her. If that's not a glitch in the Matrix, then I'm just absolutely insane. I think if this happened to me, I'd be convinced I was in the plot of the next Final Destination movie and like, just convince myself that everywhere around the corner is a big accident. That's absolutely insane. It's like a guardian angel popping into your subconscious just to shave you from a car wreck. Honestly, yeah, you gotta like go get a lottery ticket or something after luck like that. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Today we're gonna be going over this Ask Reddit thread I found about people's glitch in the Matrix stories. I just thought it was interesting, so I figured I'd make it a video. So without further ado, let's get into it. I've related this story before, but here it goes. The parallel universe answering machine. This happened about 15 years ago. I called my friend up and he wasn't home, so I left a message on his answering machine saying, "Hey, it's me. Sorry I missed ya. Call you later. Bye." Then I hung up and left the house. I made no other calls. Later that day, he called back and was like, "Wow, that was quite a message you left. Was that a girl you were talking to, or who was it?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? I wasn't talking to any girl." Well, as it turns out, the message didn't end after I said bye. I had to go over to his house and listen to this message a few times, but after my initial message that I did leave, there was a slight pause and it continues for another 30 or 40 seconds or so with me talking to some girl. It was my voice, but a conversation I never had with a girl whose voice I didn't recognize. You could compare it to the messages I know I did leave, and the two voices were indistinguishable. Not just the voice, but the talking mannerisms. It was my voice. Also, references to my occupation and activities were the same, and basically in this conversation I was talking to this girl about going skiing, but I had to go down to my shop and work on the car first, which correlated to me, and then it just stopped. It was recorded on a digital answering machine that recorded the messages to a chip, so there's no tape I could have taken and analyzed, unfortunately. And also, neither I nor my friend had party lines, so it's not an explanation. It was freaky, and I can't explain it. This is some Jimmy Timmy power hour of mixed universes going on here, dude. I don't even know what, like, in the land before deepfakes, what my reaction would be to hearing somebody having a conversation with me that I never had. Goodness gracious, hearing your own voice is bad enough. Hearing an alternate version of you having a conversation is even worse. Driving home on a storm day, I saw that a side road up the local golf course was blocked off by flashing barricades. I also spied a Mercedes parked past the barricades with its hazards on. I stopped and walked up to the car to see if they needed help because I'm an EMT, and I shined my light into the back seat to see a man slumped over asleep. Thinking I've got a few drunks, I moved up to the driver window and rapped on the glass and shined my light in. The driver is sitting bolt upright, unmoving, staring straight ahead. My window rapping and light doesn't really cause him to blink, flinch, or move. I look over and the passenger is slumped forward onto the dash, and it begins to creep me out. I called down to a sheriff station and requested a code 2 unit up to my location to help me check him out. While on the phone, I walk back to my truck to get my go bag, and as I'm on the phone with dispatch, she asked me to get a license number for the car as a power company cherry picker truck comes rumbling down from up the closed road. I moved to go around the truck to get the plate number, and the car is gone. I talked to the driver of the truck, and he said there was an 80-foot tree down across the road, and that he didn't think it'd be open for a day or two. So the question is, where the hell did the car go? Tree up one way, barricades on the other. It's kept me a bit unsettled when stopping at accidents and hazards since then. Oh, okay, ghost car, man. Is this the ghost ship equivalent of stuff on the side of the highway? The fact that everybody else was slumped and the driver was just kind of vibing makes me think you might have stumbled upon a ghost car crash scene, man.
40 years ago, a set of teenagers set out in their Mercedes, but were too reckless, and now their ghost haunts the hallways of the alternate universe.
This happened to me in 3rd grade, and it scared me so much I started crying and had to go to the office to talk to the principal about it. I was in the hallway for misbehaving, and my neighbor, Tad, a year younger than me, came walking out of a class to my right, passed in front of me, and headed down some stairs. We said hi to each other, and about 20 seconds later, he walked out of the same class, passed in front of me, and headed down the stairs. I just stared at him, confused and afraid, and he looked back like, "Why are you looking at me like that?" And I never realized how much it was like Matrix deja vu. I thought of a second example as well. A few years after this incident, my sister and I were hanging in the living room watching TV, and we both saw our mom walk through the other room and through the adjacent hall. And maybe 20 minutes later, she came in from the backyard. My sister and I looked at each other confused and asked her how she got back outside, and she didn't know what we were talking about because she'd been outside for hours and no one else was home, of course. Bro, I think you might just have the ability to tell the future a little bit. Jokes aside, though, I've definitely had a few moments like this where you're pretty sure that you just saw something that also just happened, but you're not really sure, so you just kind of have to sit there and question reality for the next 20 minutes. Sometimes I think we've got to be in a simulation and these have to just be the glitches going on, you know, just accidentally cloning your mom and sending her to like walk into a wall like a lagging enemy character in a video game. At 12 years of age, my mom let me stay in the truck when she went grocery shopping. As I was waiting, I saw an old guy walking towards the truck with an indescribable look at his face, looking at me as if I knew too much. He stopped 5 feet away from the truck and looked at me for a couple seconds and headed back the exact way he came. It was rather traumatic for some reason and very confusing at that age. 5-6 years later, my dad was showing me home videos of us at Yellowstone, and at Old Faithful I noticed the same guy, same look, same clothes, peering at us on camera and at me through the TV. I'm literally freaked out just telling you this. The Yellowstone video was from when I was very young. I'm thinking 1 or 2 years old. I was in an awesome baby pack on my dad's back. I'll try my hardest to find the video, but I don't really see my parents often and I don't think they know where our home videos will be. Nah, man, that was definitely Demon Grandpa. He knows where you live. I know you were freaked out typing this, but turn around and he's gonna be staring at you right now. Jokes aside, bro, I feel like if I had ever had some old dude approaching my truck staring at me like I knew too much while I was inside, I probably would have like hid underneath the seats, dude. I would have like been ripping those seats off the car floor to hide underneath them. The fact that you just noticed it in a home video makes this extra super creepy. I was at a friend's place back in 2008. When we were all teenagers, we had a cool shed at a friend's that we'd hang out in every weekend. It had 4 sets of bunk beds, tables, a fireplace, TV, fridge, etc., the whole lot. One night, we were all hanging out when I decided I needed to pee. I walked out the front door of the shed and started to walk to the right when I stopped. Now let me explain the layout here. As you walk out of the shed, his house is to the left, and to the right is where we parked all of our cars, and further out you're left with empty fields and trees. It was dark by now, and the lights from the house were illuminating the space between the house and the cars, but trailing off just past them. As I took a step to the right, intending to go behind the cars to relieve myself, I saw my friend's older brother there. I watched him for a good 5 or 10 seconds as he stood there, facing into the darkness, and then he walked behind a couple trees and disappeared. Confused, I walked back into the shed and asked my friend what his brother was doing by the cars, and the conversation just went as follows. "Hey man, what's your brother doing by the cars?" "What do you mean?" "He just walked off behind the cars." "Dude, I'm right here." I looked over, and there his brother was, sitting down on one of the chairs with a drink. He was wearing the exact same clothes I saw him in, and the only way into the shed was through the door I was standing in the way of. To this day, I have no idea how it all happened. I'm guessing I was just seeing things, but the fact I watched him walk around for a good 10 seconds always puzzled me, and I've never had anything else like that happen. Alright, whoever is in charge of the simulation, you gotta start working on the NPCs. I'm just saying, I'm feeling like story after story we're getting some glitches. Y'all gotta redefine the source code, patch notes it, whatever, day 1 update, whatever you gotta do. You got too many NPCs starting to ruin things for y'all. Oh man, I have one of these that involves the Matrix. I got my wisdom teeth out in 2000, right around the time the original Matrix came out on VHS, and I was bombed out of my mind on Percocet after coming back from the surgery because I had horrible wisdom teeth. My mom basically dropped me in bed and went and rented the movie for me because I'd never seen it in theaters. I remember being irritated that the sun was coming through the window and making the TV glare, but being too out of it to actually get up. A little bit after the black cat glitch scene in the Matrix, I passed out and apparently slept for about 8 hours. The tape in the VHS machine kept rewinding itself and playing over and over, and I woke up and the movie was roughly at the same spot as when I passed out, but it was completely dark outside. 0 time lapse for me. And I completely lost my mind. Started freaking out and screaming because I thought I discovered a secret and somebody turned off the sun, and I remember crying and trying to explain to my panicked family who have never let me live it down. Well, on the bright side, I guess this one's explainable by you just being insanely out of it on wisdom teeth, you know? The rest of these have no logical explanation. The one here is that you convinced yourself that someone turned off the sun, making the video a little bit lighter than like demon NPC people running around though, thanks. My dad had this little toy monkey that he used to call his favorite child and tease me and my siblings with. Not in a bad way, but it was frustrating to us and we spent hours trying to steal it from him. Well, one day we finally got it and threw it into the garbage after drawing on it and mangling it for a bit, and we and my dad laughed and searched for it, but basically figured we had thrown it out and gave it up after a week or so. Anyways, a few years later, when I was 17, I'm walking down the street in Toronto, where I don't live, just visiting some friends, and I see this little orange object on the side of the road. When I walk over to it and pick it up, I see that it's the exact same monkey. It even had the same black Sharpie lines on it from when we drew all over it. I honestly cannot even come up with the chances of it happening, especially considering our garbage is sent to a local dump nowhere near Toronto. I actually took it with me and killed it with fire just so I knew it wouldn't come back again. Yeah, bro, no thank you. I've read Night of the Living Dummy. If, stuff starts reappearing in your life after you've thrown it away, it's 100% cursed. You just have to get rid of it, and probably burning it's the best method. Only problem is you just let the monkey demon out. Oh no, it was stuck inside the puppet, and now it's loose. Isn't that kind of what happened in Shazam? Didn't they break open the stuff, and the spirits went, and, it took over people? I had a friend in high school that we're gonna call Bob. Bob was a really nice guy, and while we weren't close, we had similar tastes in music, and we'd share CDs. This was in the late 80s, way before file sharing. Anyways, we eventually graduated and I moved several hundred miles away to college and we lost touch. And when I left for college, I had one of Bob's CDs still in my possession. Fast forward 10 years later, I graduated and was knee-deep in my career and finally saved up enough money to buy my first house. I'm in the new house unpacking and I see a CD in a box. I hadn't noticed it in many years and thought, gee, I should really track down Bob and return it. And right then, the doorbell rings. It was Bob, and he says, "Hey, you wouldn't still happen to have my King Crimson CD, would you?" And I look down, and I'm literally holding it in my hand. I handed it to him, and his mouth dropped open, because mine already was, and we exchanged pleasantries, and I asked him how he found me. I no longer remember what he said, but he eventually took off, and I literally have not seen Bob since. I bet you Bob was been stalking you for years, right? He's literally been sitting, waiting for you to find that just so he could knock on the door and ask for it back. He's like, I've been following him for way too many years now, okay? If I can't give up, I gotta get the CD back. I was walking through Best Buy one day a couple years ago and I walked past a rack of boots. Sitting on the rack was the last book in the Dark Tower series from Stephen King. The front cover had a picture of Roland in the front of the tower with a field of roses behind him. I held the book in my hand and looked it over and remembered being puzzled about why it was in Best Buy, but whatever. I'd read the first 6 and I'd been waiting for the last one, but my spending money was low that week. I set it down and decided to come back next week after I got paid to buy it. I went back next week and it wasn't there. It slipped my mind after that for a bit, but after a month, a bit later, I went back to Barnes & Noble to get my copy. They told me that it wasn't out yet, and the release date for the book was 6 months later and I pre-ordered it then. When the book came out, I went to pick it up and it described the cover out loud to make sure I wasn't crazy. The clerk handed it to me and it was exactly as I'd held it in Best Buy. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the distributors had sent this out way early on accident and then someone accidentally put it out at Best Buy because they're not too familiar with how books are supposed to be put out and didn't realize it was out early. I only know that because I feel like sometimes I remember people would get the Call of Duty early because they would go to a mom and pop gaming shop that would sell it early. I'm late to the party, but this has freaked me out forever. I was a satellite installer and I was driving between two small towns in North Carolina, Statesville and Taylorsville. It's about a 20-minute drive of a perfectly straight 2-lane road with pretty much nothing but trees on either side. It's the middle of the day and I'm driving along listening to Howard Stern on Sirius Radio when all of a sudden I go from wide awake to falling asleep. Meaning 1 second I'm normal and a second later my head is drooping down, eyes closing, and what snaps me out of it is my car bounces like I hit a speed bump. I'm still in the middle of the road and Howard Stern is still in the same sentence, but my GPS signal says lost and then I hear recalculating. And when it comes back, I realize I'm about 12 miles further down the road than I was, and I missed my turn by 5. My immediate thought was, even though I now consider myself a level-headed atheist, was that I was asleep, hit a tree, and died, and was now in some weird afterlife. It was such a strong feeling that I drove to the nearest gas station, got out, and headed inside with sweaty palms, telling the cashier inside I was not going to be able to see me. To my relief, she did see me and I bought a Red Bull, but I still think I was hypnotized by the road and drove on some weird autopilot for a while. Losing GPS signal and not missing any of Howard Stern is explainable to me. I even used the Sirius ability to rewind, and there was none of the show that I missed. Alien abduction, alien abduction, alien abduction. Only logical explanation, man. This was not a glitch in the Matrix. E.T. just wanted to hang out for a little bit, but had to wipe your memory, because if you took the selfies home, then everyone would know it was actually a real movie and not a work of fiction by Steven Spielberg. I used to work in music and toured with this band. The guitarist of the band's best friend had died a couple years before, and he always talked about him and seemed like he was a great guy. Josh always had this reoccurring dream where Matt was standing on an abandoned street, which supposedly was metaphorical for purgatory. Josh had all these conversations with Matt in these dreams because he had overdosed unexpectedly. He felt like his spirit was not able to move on. At the end of the dreams, Matt would take a bulb from the street light on the street they were standing in, and Josh described these dreams in extreme detail, and I could pretty much picture exactly what the street looked like. Fast forward to about 6 months into touring with these guys, and there were huge Bright Eye fans and wanted to stop in Cassadaga, which is Florida, which the Bright Eye singer wrote an album there, and it's a really creepy spiritual medium type of place. It might be worth noting that 6 of the 7 people I was with are all quote-unquote atheists, so we drove into Cassadaga around 2 or 3 a.m. to drive around. Suddenly, this huge black dog comes out into the middle of the road and stops to look at us. The guy and his band were weirded out and said things like, "Follow the dog, it's trying to show us something." And in my mind, I was thinking that they were all idiots. We followed this dog for a few blocks as it was walking pretty slowly, and all of a sudden, we turned a street and it bolted. We tried to speed up, but Josh said, "Stop the van, this is it." We're confused, and he gets out of the van and looks around and says, "This is it. This is the street from my dreams." We hung out for 15 minutes, and from the way he described the street, from having houses on the left to a park on the right, it was the street. And as we got in the van, the street light went off and we drove away. He claims he never had any dreams about it and that it was closure on everything. I definitely wouldn't have been caught going and following the dog, because no thank you. The second you're like, I'm in a spiritual town with a lot of paranormal activity and a dog starts trying to lead me somewhere, is when I'm like, no thanks, not trying to be transported to another dimension. But hey, at least I'm glad you got closure. Today I messed up by talking my wife into getting 23andMe. My current wife and I were both married previously and both had 3 children each. We went to high school together in a small town, and both of our families are well known in the area with deep roots because they've both been here a long time. Last year, I got my wife an Ancestry DNA kit as a gift because she wanted to know more about her European roots, and her sister decided to do the same. But when their results came back, it was posted and it started making family connections, which included my mother, my oldest son, my uncle, etc. My wife's mom comes into the room, so they ask her how we could be related, and her mom starts crying and says that when she was very young, she overheard someone say that Tom is not your dad, Jimmy is. And her mom, being from an older generation, says she just put it out of her mind and convinced herself it's a rumor. So I call my mom and ask if she's ever heard a rumor that her father could be my wife's mother's father as well, and she gets quiet for a moment and says yes, and I believed it was true based on what her mother had told her and the fact that my grandfather was a well-known cheater and womanizer. We looked further into the information on 23andMe, and it says my wife and oldest son share a great-grandpa, and more of us are now getting tested on the same platform, but it appears a World War II era secret has come to life. Wait, hold on. Did he just find out that his wife is his cousin? What is going on, bro? The world has to just be a simulation. This is so insane. What do you even do if you find out that you and your wife secretly share a great-grandpa that you had no clue about? What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the subreddit. Today I effed up. It's just a collection of people talking about mistakes they've made, all that crazy stuff. I just figured it would be a pretty out there video, and as you can tell from the first story, it's certainly crazy. So without further ado, let's get into it. Today I messed up by almost killing all of my roommates with a can of soda. Obligatory, this happened during college, but back when I was a young buck, I enjoyed the occasional soda, and I also enjoyed smoking, but I honestly can't remember if I was stoned when the following tragicomedy occurred. You be the judge. So I was in my shared apartment lounging around when I had an inkling to go have myself a Coke. I go to the kitchen and pull a can out of the fridge. The refrigerator did not ever seem to really know the difference between fridge and freezer temperature, so it was kind of random what you might end up with, and on this particular day I hit the reverse lottery and found myself holding a frozen can of Coke. But I wanted Coke and I wanted it now. No worries, what I needed was some quick heat, and conveniently located next to the refrigerator freezer was a stove. I should note that I excel in situations was like this, because in no time I whipped out a pot, poured some water in, and had some blazing high flame, and in the middle of it all, one soon-to-be unfrozen can of soda. Plan in place and executed perfectly, I went back to the living room to watch some TV. And it's really kind of up for debate whether subconsciously or not, I knew it would be a good idea to be anywhere but that kitchen, because the bomb, as they say, had been lit. From here, I don't really have a conception of how much time passed. 2 minutes, 10, however long it was, my world was quickly punctuated by a literal explosion. I had no idea what happened. A gas leak, a plane. I jumped to the floor to avoid doom. Very quickly thereafter, while I'm still on the ground, my roommates came running into the living room, screaming, "What was that?" My senses slowly coming back, it dawns on me that this may have been caused by my idea to basically light pressurized carbonation on fire. We run into the soda, and to this day, I cannot believe what it looked like. There was soda, sticky soda everywhere. But where was the can? The can was gone. Bits of aluminum had been blasted into the walls, the ceilings, and full metal shards literally half in our wall, half out. We stood there, mouths gaping at the apocalyptic scene our standard college kitchen had become. I still sometimes think about how lucky I was. Could have easily been killed or killed my roommates who came into the room. Imagine if I had come in a moment earlier to stir the damn thing, head poked over it. Ugh, I get the chills. Well, duh, bro, it's a horrible idea to ever put anything like, compressed and pressurized over an open flame. My goodness, what were you thinking? I just want my soda and I want it now. Thank goodness none of your roommates were in the kitchen. Holy cow. Oh, this is one of those things where, every time you're about to fall asleep, this probably replays in your mind and you realize how dumb you were being. Today I messed up by not drinking water after eating chocolate for 10 years. I was in the 5th grade that day. It was a national day and they gave chocolate out to everyone in the school. After eating the chocolates, we started to get thirsty and drink our water, and our teacher saw us and said, "If you drink too much water after eating chocolate, you'll get diarrhea. Ha 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 ha." But I took it seriously and didn't drink water after eating chocolate for 10 years. 10 years after, I ate chocolate and as usual decided to wait a bit before drinking water. But this time it was different. This time my brain questioned this information for the first time and I googled that and there was no such thing. And I realized that everything I felt like my whole life was built on was a lie. I was ashamed of myself. It was just a poop joke. Imagine accidentally making yourself dehydrated every time you make chocolate for a decade because someone made a poop joke that you took the wrong way. That's a pretty crappy way for things to end up, bro, but all in all, pretty harmless compared to finding out your wife's your cousin or something. Today I messed up by losing a $60,000 a year job by sending the boss a GIF of George Costanza from Seinfeld. About a month ago, I left my job managing a kitchen because of the restaurant owner's abusive, gaslighting behavior. I was making $17 an hour, which is not bad for how easy the job was. Upon leaving and starting my job hunt online, I realized how great my resume was, or how desperate restaurants are for skilled employees. When I began to receive offers from $40,000 to $50,000 to run operations at several higher-end places around the city. Where I live, that's a very decent paycheck and can buy a comfortable lifestyle, much more than I've ever made in my 30 years on Earth, and needless to say, it felt good to be able to turn down a few offers and explore higher paying ones. I receive a text one day from the owner of a nice place in town asking if I can interview, and I tell him of course, noon sounds good, looking forward to meeting you, blah blah blah. At 11:30, I accepted a job from someone else for $40K a year managing a news spot, and not wanting to burn bridges, I shot the noon interviewer a text explaining I just accepted an offer and thanked him for his consideration, and his reply stopped me in my tracks. That's a shame. Need someone to manage the kitchen. Starts at $60K with benefits. I nearly shat myself. No one had ever offered me that much to do what I do, and our previous exchanges seemed friendly enough, and he seemed like a seasoned kitchen guy himself. So I figured a little humor couldn't hurt. I found a GIF of George Costanza from Seinfeld turning his head around and raising his eyebrow in a "you said how much" kind of way. However, the universe had its own sense of humor, because upon pressing send, feeling pleased with myself, I instantly knew I had a major F-up on my hands. The GIF didn't move. It was frozen due to my inability to wait for it to fully load before saving it onto my phone. He received a picture of George Costanza just standing there, facing away from the camera with no context, no explanation, just him standing there with his back turned, and 10 minutes went by. I made the bold decision to break the silence first and not acknowledge it at all, and my sweaty fingers typed out, "I can be there by 2," to which he says, "I'm pretty busy today." I tell my friends about it later, and they're choking laughing at the screenshot I saved of this absolute roller coaster of stupidity, and I did not get the job. I did get a similar offer for a better fitting position a few days later at a very nice establishment, and I love it, but the screenshot lives on for laughs, and I think about it at least once a day still. Honestly, you probably would have been okay if you didn't wait 10 minutes to reply and then ignore the picture. Like, if you would have said, oh my gosh, it was supposed to be a GIF, it should have moved, that's one thing. But yeah, you just send a random picture of some dude looking away from the camera and then don't say anything about it. I'd probably be like, yeah, I'm busy too. Today I messed up and almost killed my girlfriend by accidentally crawling at me like a demon, her words, up our staircase on all fours, but I swear I can explain. Hey guys, it's about 3 a.m. here in Norway at the moment, and I just messed up a bit. We're borrowing my girlfriend's father's house for the weekend while he and his partner are away, and it's me, my girl, and our 1-year-old son. The kid was put down to sleep at around 8 p.m. and my girlfriend went to bed at 11. And about 2 hours ago, about 1 a.m., I went to draw a bath in the tub. I love taking baths at night, and we don't have a tub at home, so when I get the chance, I go for it. The bathroom is on the second floor of the house, alongside 3 bedrooms, and one of them is occupied by the kid and the other by her and me. Once I tidied up my crap and found all the light switches, who hides them underneath wall cabinets, all that remained is to ascend the staircase and lower my pale carcass into the perfectly temperatured bath water that calms my nerves and soothes my balls. The thing is, it's a really creaky staircase, like comically so. It sounds like you're violently disintegrating it beneath your feet as you climb. The noise is insane. The noises will wake everyone in the house up if you don't go about it expertly, and even then, you're still making enough noise to garner a contact on your head from your neighbors. My girl is a light sleeper and has trouble sleeping and really values the sleep she does get. And my son is a slightly heavier sleeper, but he's nowhere near my own loudly comatose sleep. And this creaking would shatter any hopes of me entering this bath this side of an hour. And did I mention how steep this thing is? It's more akin to a climbing wall. How 3 kids grew up in this house without casualties amazes me, because this thing is deadly if you don't watch your step, and add to that the challenge of avoiding creaking, and you got a proper quest on ya. So what do? Naturally, I use my superior genes, gender, and brain power to concoct an appropriate solution suitable to my ambitions. I figured I'd walk on all floors. You know, distribute my weight as I went up the stairs to creak less. The idea made sense at the time, and to be honest, it worked, future consequences notwithstanding. The creaking was much, much lower, but not low enough to not wake my girlfriend. As I turned off the last light downstairs and made my ascent, she came into the hallway. She wasn't wearing her lenses, so it took a moment for her to notice me, and I also instinctively froze at that same little moment when she opened the door. And at that very moment, as I freeze, she looks up at me, and all she can see is my pale, tired nighttime face frozen in an undoubtedly unfortunate grimace, with a bigger, even paler body climbing at her like an albino spider from the pitch black darkness of downstairs on all fours at 1 a.m. She screamed so loud it shook my eyeballs and howled as she fell to the floor and shrieked in very real deathly fear. Our son woke up, joining his mother in the mayhem that was my relaxing bath time. I nearly fell down the stairs but managed to rush up and calm my girlfriend, but she was terrified and furious at me. Thankfully, she was able to laugh at it once we calmed her and our son down and her heart rate slowed down to the triple digits. She, ever the drama queen, feels this was not appropriate behavior at 1 a.m., and she also thought I looked like an American version of the Grudge Girl but creepier. Threats were leveled against me and my dearest parts if I ever did that again. Honestly, I'm gonna agree with your girlfriend here. I don't think there's a whole lot of superior brain power going on when you're like climbing around the house like an albino spider. Your words, not mine. Anyone in their situation would crap their pants. You wake up and look outside the door of your bedroom and there's just like a body on all fours crawling towards you. No thank you, bro. Super creepy. Super creepy. Today I messed up by realizing Princess Diana was not the Princess of Wales, the animal. This happened a year ago at a birthday dinner with a friend. There was a group of about 8 of us, and my friend and her friend group and a husband. We were chowing down on some dinner, discussing the hot topic of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle leaving the royal family, and I don't know much on the matter, I just knew it was happening. I don't know much about the royal family at all, I just know that there's some hullabaloo about Meghan and Prince Harry looks like Weasley, and that people really like Kate Middleton's outfits. I listen while I'm taking bites, and someone says, I wonder what happens in Sussex if someone will take their place. And then it hit me. I accidentally let out an audible, oh no, and put down my food. I looked at the table and covered my face, and they stopped and asked what the matter is. I take a moment and feel the blood rushing to my face, and I debate on telling them that I just had an epiphany on how stupid I am and letting them know exactly how stupid it is. They pried more and I caved. I let them know that right up to this point in my life, I thought Princess Diana was the Princess of Wales the animal and not Wales the country. I was a very young young child when she died, and I thought that's why everyone was so sad, is because there was no one to protect whales anymore. Like, when you become a royal, they give you an animal to look over and help with charity and balls and whatnot. I look up and just see them staring at me, and they all try to tuck in their smiles as they politely comfort me, like, oh, it's okay, we all get some stuff wrong, it's alright, but did you not know about Wales the country? I did know about the country, but I just didn't put two and two together as a kid, and at that age, my mind was mostly on unicorns and the Lion King. And I actually remember asking my family at the dinner table about whales when we heard about it on the news, and no one corrected me. Then I remember all the times I've brought it up in my life and no one said anything, and I'm over here spewing about whales every time someone brought up Princess Diana for years. People probably just assume I had a passion for giant sea mammals, and I didn't take the time to research because it was totally forgotten with time. I called my parents after the dinner to tell them the story, and they laughed too hard, and my dad now lovingly refers to me as the Princess of Wales when I say something stupid in front of my family, which to no one's surprise is a lot. Oh, I know this one's harmless, but I just don't know why you admit it. Like, even if you have the realization 30 years down the line, you don't need to tell your friends that you thought every royal is given an endangered animal to throw balls for so that way their charity gets more donations. Could you imagine, dude? Ah, yes, I am Prince Poopy Pants, king of the, I don't know, koala bear, whatever. What's endangered these days? Today I messed up by scheduling a job interview. I've been looking for a full-time job for a couple months after leaving a job that turned toxic for me. Yesterday morning, I couldn't sleep at 2 or 3 in the morning, so I started applying for jobs because I had to get on the grind. About an hour later, I got an email saying that they wanted to schedule an interview and that I could schedule it with an automated system. Calendly, if you're wondering. A lot of recruiters are using it because it makes things easier, and it looks like an automated email, so I don't think anything of it and just assume I trip something in their HR system to bring me in. Cool. So I also have an interview at noon, so I look at the Calendly availability, and there's availability today. I booked it for 3 p.m., which is enough time for me to go to my interview at noon, come home, and settle in for a chat, and I get an automated reply, everything's good, and it's set for 3. I go to sleep and wake up at 9 a.m., and I'm looking at the calendar and Gmail, and I see the invite for today. That's odd, so I look at the invite, and it's for 3, but the call-in number starts with a 44. So I look at the job listing, and it's for my city, but I look at the website, and there's no mention of a US office. They have a UK phone number for sales and a UK office address, and heavily advertise EU-targeted partners, but they do mention their product works with companies that operate in the US, so I was a little confused. Then I looked at the invite again, and I selected 3 a.m. instead of 3 p.m. Crap. I look around and think about it and decide to just own it instead of looking like an idiot and trying to reschedule within 24 hours. Then the person I'm interviewing with emails me and said, dude, you scheduled this for 9 a.m. GMT. That's 3 a.m. your time. You sure you want to do the interview then? I doubled down and owned it and told him yes, I made a mistake scheduling it, but I'm up around that time, which isn't wrong, but usually I'm laying in bed watching TikTok and it doesn't constitute being ready for work. And that I used to work for a company that was in 30 countries and routinely had meetings at odd hours, so I'm used to it. And I felt at the time I scheduled it was respecting their time zone, so I'm comfortable keeping it. I didn't want to look like an idiot going into this interview, and it doesn't look good when you're applying for a job that requires attention to detail and you don't realize you're setting a meeting in the wrong time zone, so I owned it. We confirmed the time and 3 a.m. rolls around this morning and we do the interview. He remarks it's odd for me to do the interview at that time, and I say again that at my last company it was the best time to work with Europe, and in my experience we can discuss what needs to happen and have a few hours after the meeting in case things change or need clarification, so I'm used to doing it, and we start the interview. And I think I nailed it. They're opening an office locally and hiring the first US people, and they're working on ironing out the details. He asks questions and I answer them, and he's visibly impressed and comments that it's some of the best answers he's heard to the questions. We talk about the logistics of opening the office and training, and he even says he's going to be scheduling more calls later and to be on the lookout. What kinda sucks is they don't have the nuts and bolts of what the package is going to look like. They don't have insurance lined up, but they have a consultant to assist with the process, and the US staff is going to be consulted about it. It's great for me because I need a surgery that's not covered under most insurances, so I can push to get it covered. But yeah, I've been up for like 20 hours at this point with the interview and I somehow nailed it. I'm just gonna pay more attention next time to time zones because oh my gosh, was it a bit more rough than I thought it was going to be. Honestly, dude, it's a mess up, but fake it till you make it. You rolled with it pretty good. Most people probably would have been freaking out like, oh my gosh, I can't do an interview this late at night. I have to reschedule. Nah, you just own it. Sir, 3 a.m. is actually my most efficient work time. I promise you that I can be up at 3 a.m. to work for your company. If you pay me enough, I'll do it, baby. Next thing you know, you get $500,000 a year plus stock options. Let's go! Today I messed up by forgetting that I use electricity while sleeping. A week ago, I got a text and email from the electricity company warning that between 5 and 7 on this specific day, my area would have no electricity due to repairs or maintenance or something like that, but I considered as I would be asleep it wouldn't really affect me and dismissed it. A second warning arrived the day before the outage and was similarly dismissed, and I went on to stay up a bit too late, but no worries. I woke up at 5, groggily wondering what was different because it seemed hard to breathe. I moved my face mask away from my nose, expecting the customary bursts of air from my CPAP machine, which I use for sleep apnea. But I got nothing. Why isn't it working? It should be, oh my gosh. The worst part was the sudden recollection of the last time this happened 2 or 3 years ago, and I made the exact same mistake. Maybe I'll remember next time. Sometimes I'm like, dude, modern humans kind of just be forgetting how much we rely on stuff that, like, isn't naturally produced, you know? Not a bad way. But like, yes, sometimes I forget people need sleep apnea machines to exist and sleep soundly. And if the power ever went out for an extended period of time, what, would they just turn into like ghouls from Fallout, you know? I'm just saying, kind of weird to think about the fact that you have to have electricity to sleep, because it can turn off at any time. Today I messed up by drunk ordering deep dish pizzas from across the country. Obligatory, this happened last week, but I was at a party last Saturday night and things were going well. I got pretty wasted and ordered an Uber home at around 3 and was hungry when I got back. Since I was hammered, I don't remember exactly how the events transpired, but I put the pieces together today. First, I drunk DoorDash 2 deep dish pizzas from Chicago. I don't know how, because I live in Alabama, and I assume after I waited too long for my food to arrive, DoorDash from McDonald's since I was tired of waiting. I finally got my McDonald's, ate it, and fell asleep. Now, 2 days ago, I received a delivery of 2 frozen deep dish pizzas from DoorDash, and my ass assumed it was some sort of gift for their drivers, since I also deliver in my free time. I then went to Walmart and bought some things, and my card was declined. Keep in mind, I'm a broke college student, so I go and check my bank account and realize that I spent $43.51 on my McDonald's order and $90.72 on the pizzas. So now I'm broke and a dumbass for spending $134.23 on DoorDash in one night. On the bright side, though, the pizza is pretty good. Honestly, man, $134 in one night on Uber Eats sounds like a pretty big mess up, dude. But if you are wasted and your food didn't show up, I guess I can understand why you kept ordering. I just don't know why you didn't double check on the pizzas first. My goodness, it's gonna take 3 days for them to get here? Wowee, Uber Eats sure has slowed down. Anyways, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoy. What's your best story that is 100% real but nobody believes you? When I was in elementary school, my brother and I were walking home from school after it rained all day. He started reaching his hand in all the puddles and I asked him what he was doing and he said, sometimes there's money in these. 3 or 4 puddles later, he pulled out a $20 bill. Not sure if he ganked it from somewhere else and planted it or if it was legit, but either way, I now check puddles for treasures when there's no witnesses. I really hope that this is an elaborate troll only because A, that's hilarious, and B, the fact that his brother now into his adult life still looks in puddles for money. This had to have been planted, right? Like, what are the odds that his older brother managed to find money in a puddle once, learn this life lesson, and then managed to pull a 20 out in front of somebody else? Either this guy has got to be the best puddle fisherman of all time, or this is an elaborate troll that has now left a lifelong impact. Either of which I'm happy with. Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. As you can tell, today we're going to be going over a Reddit thread of people telling insane stories that not a lot of people believe about them. It should be a pretty entertaining video, but before we get into it, press the like button or no joke, no scam. You're going to end up in these situations. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. When I was 15 years old, I was in my kitchen, home alone, cutting a pineapple. There was a fly that was buzzing around my face for the past 2 minutes and it was getting annoying, so just for the heck of it, out of pure blind rage, I grabbed my knife and swung it at the fly in midair. I sliced the fly in half. Sliced it in half. After I did that, I immediately realized no one would ever believe me. Yeah, I mean, of course no one's gonna believe you, dude. You're just out here whipping around a kitchen knife like a katana, dismembering flies that are annoying you. Seriously, you know it's like something that you could never replicate and no one's gonna believe if you didn't even do it on purpose. It's not like you set out when you swung that to do that. You were just as shocked as everybody else would be if you told that story. I was on the way to visit a friend. My husband and I got lost on a highway in Pennsylvania, and by some weird chance, my husband's friend drove past us in the opposite direction. We saw him and turned around to catch up, and after finally pulling over, we were standing on the side of the road, which was a 2-lane highway, discussing the directions to the friend's house. Surrounding us are farms with corn and other various crops, and out of nowhere, a duck appears on the opposite side of the road. He's looking at us curiously while we're talking, and we watch him look both ways and waddle across the road to where we're standing. Cars are honking at him as they attempt to drive past, but he gets over to my husband, pecks at his shoe once, and then walks back across the street, dodging cars traveling at highway speed. He made it back across the street and disappeared into the crops. He literally risked his life to come peck my husband's shoe and simply waddled out of our lives. Damn, your duck was apparently very, very insulted by your husband's shoe game. He literally risked his life to come out there and just say, "What are those?" with his beak. Honestly though, was he wearing a boot or something? Like, could he have mistaken it for a loaf of bread? I'm just wondering why he was out here trying to play Frogger in real life just to come get some boot. About 7 or 8 years ago, I was into really humorous wiki vandalizations and thought it would be funny to claim that the kiwi fruit was once called the hairy bush fruit. I modified the page on kiwi fruit to say, and then cut and paste some random Chinese characters from elsewhere and put this in. Hairy bush fruit, and then Chinese characters. Since then, it has been repeated all over the place and currently returns 61,000 hits on Google. It's been printed in The Guardian, which means it's now a 100% verifiable fact and will quite likely never be removed from the offending article. It's kind of a scary implication. The Guardian journalist wrote that the article should have noted that Wikipedia was used as reference, but it didn't. There could quite easily be other circular references like this, where a journalist repeats something incorrectly lifted from Wikipedia and publishes it. That now means that the incorrect fact can be referenced in the press. Ah, yes, everyone loves a good hairy bush fruit. I love this only because it goes to show that, like, you know, maybe Wikipedia isn't the best source for everything. Good for general knowledge, sure, but the fact that there's journalists out there just taking facts from Wikipedia and then not sourcing it is a little scary. You can make up literally anything, dude. I'm tempted to go convince everybody that the hairy bush fruit was also the royal fruit of the English royal family up until the 1900s, because they then realized that the name change to kiwi didn't make them as happy as eating the hairy bush fruit. A boy in my high school was into supernatural stuff and claimed that he had somehow seen me in my bedroom. He described in detail what I was wearing, and everyone thought that I was in on it. I was not. Yeah, was he really into supernatural stuff or being a stalker, dude? Did you make sure there was nobody on a ladder outside of your window? This is next level creepy, man. If somebody did this to me, I would just go out of my way to, like, never interact with them again, because if they do have magic powers, the last thing I want to know is my future, alright? No thank you. This is how I ended up with my dog. I was on my way to the bus when I saw this dog calmly walking about. He approached me and I petted him for a bit and went on my way. For some reason, though, he kept following me. There were other people around us, but he kept on walking behind me. The bus station is by a busy street, and I hoped to shake him off by the time I got there. But no, I wasn't sure what would happen if I got on the bus. Would he run after it? Would he hop on? The stop I intended to hop off is another heavily trafficked place, and neither of the options looked good, so I did the only thing I could think of. I headed home. On the way home, I called my dad and told him a dog was following me, and he laughed, thinking it was a way of me trying to skip school. He went along with it though, promising to drive us to a nearby dog shelter, but imagine his surprise when I came home with a dog. So we drove to the shelter where we have to turn him in, and a week or so later we got a call saying that no one claimed him or reported him missing. My dad wanted a dog, but seeing as this fellow had followed me around, he figured, well, I guess this is our dog, and that, kids, is how I met him. I mean, that makes sense to me, dude. If it followed you home and then nobody claimed him for a week, that's basically your dog now. Yeah, I agree with your dad. If anything, it just just goes to show that dogs are sweet, alright? I know I'm a little bit of a dog person. That being said, what other animal would just decide to protect you for no reason, huh? I don't think a moose will do that. If a moose starts following your car, I would start freaking out a little bit. In 2010, I was visiting my aunt in New York with my family. We went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art early on a Tuesday, and while walking around, I thought I saw Will Ferrell in sunglasses and a hat, so I walked up to him and asked if it was him. He looked me in the eyes and said, "Yes, in fact, I am." So I asked for a picture and autograph, and he promptly said no, because if I do that, then you can prove that you really met me, and he walked off. I hope that this one is real, only because it seems like a very Will Ferrell thing to do, you know, just to be like, hey, yeah, it is me, but you're not going to get any proof of it. Or it could be a Will Ferrell imposter. Either way, I feel like this is just kind of what you expect. Maybe that's why he keeps it interesting. You never know if you met real Ferrell or Will Ferrell, you know? Real Ferrell is how he throws people off the idea that he's the fake Will Ferrell. I was walking down my driveway to wait for the school bus in middle school, and I noticed a cute little fawn maybe 10 yards away. I lived in a wooded area. I was just thinking about how cute the little guy was when his mother came crashing through the woods and headbutted my hip, and then hauled it back through the trees with the baby. I had a bruise on my hip for a week, and no one would believe how I got it. I didn't realize that Mama Deer had the Mama Bear thing going on, dude. She really came through with the whole linebacker effect, just trying to headbutt you down as strong as humanly possible. Is this how Mama Deer act if they've seen Bambi before? They're look, no human's getting the best of me, okay? I've seen Bambi, I know how this goes down. You're getting headbutted. When I was a wee little thing, I loved the Power Rangers. This was when the first Power Rangers came out, and they were all that was good and right with the world, and I was a member of their fan club. I was in the Discovery Zone one day, and I saw them. The Power Rangers, who'd shown up for some kid's birthday in a private room. I begged and pleaded with my father to let me meet them, but he told me I couldn't go in there because it wasn't my party and I didn't know anyone and they'd kick me out. Well, as we walked away, my little feet trudged me back to the door. I cracked it open and slipped into the private room where the other kids were having a blast and the Power Rangers were talking to everyone equally. I got to meet them, shake their hands, give them all hugs, and it was probably the most defining moment of my life up until that point. My dad looked mortified, but walked into the private room in an attempt to fetch me and apologize, but lo and behold, no one cared I was there. No one seemed to notice that I didn't know anyone, and none of the parents seemed to notice that no one knew my father. In hindsight, most of the parents probably didn't know each other and were just at the party to be with their kids. At this point, I should mention that I met the Power Rangers. Not some people dressed in Power Rangers costumes, but the actors who played them on TV. At the time, I didn't even understand the concept behind actors. So to me, these guys were the Power Rangers, and when they left, they were going back to fighting monsters. I spent an hour with some random kids who became my friends and the Power Rangers before I got tired, wished everybody goodbye, and then waved back like we'd been friends forever. The other kids were friendly, and the Power Rangers were awesome, and all the parents seemed chill about it. I'm just more flabbergasted that somehow this dude's parents ended up getting the real Power Rangers at that party. Like, all of the actors showed up for a birthday party? That must have been a bag. Seriously, though, I don't blame you for wanting to meet them. I think anybody when they're 7 years old is like, "It's the Power Rangers!" Insanely excited. I would have been too, dude. The fact that no parents cared is very cool, though. You know, your dad managing to play it cool is also slick. I feel like if I ever have kids and they like run into someone else's party, I would be in there and be like, get back here, we gotta go. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'd just be freaking out. He just slipped in and went, "Oh, wow, my kid's meeting the Power Rangers. Isn't that crazy? Wow, yeah," blend into the shadows. When I was little, my brother and I were always staying with babysitters during the day, and this one time we were with the same babysitter for a few months. As soon as we got to her house, I would hang me and my brother's coat on the coat hangers that were placed right before the basement stairs. My little brother was too little to reach the coat hangers, so I would hang his for him. Well, one day, he got this stubborn idea that he wanted to do it. I remember being nervous, but letting him try it anyway. He picks the hanger that is the closest one possible to the top of the basement stairs, and as he's on his tiptoes, struggling to reach the hanger, he falls over and down the basement stairs. The babysitter heard him crying and then accused me of pushing my baby brother down the stairs and told my mom about it later. And to this day, no one believes that I didn't do it. I would never hurt my little brother. Alright, man, I'm not saying that you're lying. I'm just saying, if everybody, including your little brother, thinks that you pushed him down the stairs, I don't know, man. Maybe you did. Obviously, I'm not accusing you of anything, but if everybody to this day still maintains that you pushed, maybe you did just a little bit. Not a lot of bit, a little bit. Seriously. seriously though, this entire thing is just wild. I hope your brother's okay. I'm guessing from the fact that you're posting it on Reddit that he is okay, because, you know, if not, that'd be weird to be posted online. When I was like 11, I went to this big children's fishing festival where all the children in attendance got to put their names into a hat and then drawn out to determine which guide they were paired with. Well, lo and behold, my name is first, so my brother and I get to go with the number one guide there, who happens to be a professional fisherman or something. The guy was the only guide to come with his own cameraman, like an actual cameraman tagged along with us. So apparently, this guy, who's very nice and I have a great time with, is a somewhat famous fishing video maker, and my brother and I were filmed every time we reeled in a fish. The guide told us we may make it into one of his videos or even to a fishing TV show, but he didn't know for sure. So one day, I'm sitting there watching ESPN on Sunday morning before church, and no crap, there I am with my little brother catching a big walleye. Of course, my parents were getting ready and my brother was in the shower, so no one else saw it, but it was nuts. This was before DVR or anything, and I had no idea it was coming, so I couldn't set up a recording, but I was on ESPN for 30 seconds, and it's probably the pinnacle of my fame right there. I feel like there'd be something so magical about not knowing you were about to be on television and then just looking up and seeing yourself one day. Like, you know, usually I'm sure you know it's about to come on, you know you got interviewed for so-and-so, you know you're on X show, but just looking up and randomly seeing you and your brother on ESPN would definitely be a trip. That's a fire little interaction right there. I can understand why nobody would believe you though, because who is watching fishing on television, bro? Like, I'm not even against fishing. If you're gonna go fishing, go fishing. If you're watching fishing on ESPN, I do have to make fun of you a small tiny little amount. As a child, I can remember standing out on the apartment balcony watching kangaroos in the distance. My mother used to make homemade clay for me to play with using flour and some other kitchen materials. I didn't have a bed, slept in mostly an empty room with a few toys, cars, and one of the Hot Wheel tracks that goes in a loop. The only problem is I've never been outside the United States, and my mom claims she's never done this or knows how to make clay, and that I've always had a bed, and I'm 100% sure I'm not adopted. Sure enough, those memories are there. Multiple memories of it, like some kind of weird out-of-the-ordinary memory, more like one of the general memories from childhood. I feel like this has to be a situation where you had a fever dream or something, dude, because if you've never been outside the United States, I don't know where you would be seeing wild kangaroos running off in the distance. I don't know, kids' imaginations are wild, dude. I've got a lot of memories that make literally no sense considering where I grew up. Sometimes maybe we're dreaming or something. That would be scary, though, to just feel like you're having memories from a past life or whatever. When I was about 8 years old, my dad and I were throwing the Nerf Whistler football out in the yard. My dad had quite the arm back in the day, so when we got done throwing the football, he decided he wanted to send a laser into the back of his truck from about 30 yards away. Naturally, I began to run inside, and my dad accidentally hit me in the face so hard with the Whistler it left a permanent dimple in the side of my face. Lucky for me, though, it hit me square in the jaw where normal dimples are, and that is probably the source of why people don't believe me, but that crap happened. Hearing a high-pitched whistle coming directly from my face was absolutely terrifying. Man, bro, how hard can your dad throw a football? Like, listen, you know, this story is obviously true and people don't believe it. I'm just saying that, like, your dad has to have an absolute cannon. You know, I think the couple NFL teams might want to give him a call if he can throw a whistle ball hard enough to leave a permanent dimple on someone. Your dad doesn't have an arm. He has, like, you know, an M16 instead. When I was 8, I was riding bikes with my mom, and I hit a gravel patch and fell. I don't remember why I didn't have a helmet on, but I hit my head on a rock and was knocked unconscious. I saw and heard 2 old ladies walking down the street, and they came over and stood by me for a while. When I opened my eyes, my mom was running out from a neighbor's house after calling an ambulance, and the old ladies were gone. 10 people came out to assist me, and none of them saw those women. You know, in Hercules, there's those 3 people that are cutting the strings when everybody dies, you know, the fates. I feel like that's basically what you saw here. Smacked your head on a rock. They were like, look, clearly this idiot should have been wearing a helmet. We're gonna let it slide this time, okay? Like 6 years ago, I accidentally jumped into my parents' pool with my iPod and headphones in my pocket after mowing the lawn in the scorching heat. I freaked out and got out as quickly as possible. My iPod was still on in my pocket, and when I pulled it out, I realized that it was probably done for. Now, I probably had 2,000 songs on this thing, yet the song that showed up on Shuffle was The Sound of Silence. It played for about 10 seconds, and then my iPad passed on. People pretend to believe me, but I know they doubt it. The Sound of Silence Bounce is a very fitting song for the end of an iPod's life, dude, and it's very tragic because iPod shuffles are getting expensive, man. You think it'd be easy to find something to just play music and not be on the internet. Nay, they say. That I accidentally stuck my fingers all the way into a client's mouth. She was holding her dog while I clipped its nails, and when I was done, she bent down to kiss the head at the same time I was going to pet the top of his head, and my finger went all the way into this old lady's mouth. Everyone thinks I'm exaggerating the story, but unfortunately for me, I am not. Oof, bro, this is so incredibly awkward and uncomfortable, man. I think the reason no one believes this story is because they don't want to believe this story. Everybody wants to think that when you're just clipping a dog's fingernails, there's no possibility of an old woman trying to eat your finger. But yet, here you are, breaking the wall that nobody knew was even breakable in the first place. Is that something that you, told your employer about to get insurance coverage for, just in case somebody with, a bad cavity bites your finger in the future? I was home alone when I was a kid, and a grown man walked into my front door, looked at me, and walked out the back door like he was on a casual Saturday stroll and hopped our fence. My dad showed up a minute later and asked me why the front and back door was open, and I told him what happened, and to this day, no one in my family believes me. Wait, what, dude? What an insane story. Listen, obviously people aren't gonna believe that. Your dad comes in, hey, why is every door open? You don't understand. Some stranger just walked through the house, didn't take anything, looked at me, and then hopped the wall. Yeah, he said he was doing Pilates, whatever that means. Seriously, if this is true, then why did he do that? What are the odds of just opening a door, it being open, you walking in and not having somebody immediately jump on you and attack you, and then walking out the back door? And then when he hopped the wall, now he's just in someone else's backyard. Did he go through their back door and out their front door? I have so many questions as to where this man was going and how he got there. Back when I was in school, I saved this douche's life. We were more classmates than friends, and a van had lost its brakes and was coming at us at 60 kilometers an hour. This guy didn't even honk the horn or anything, and by chance, I turned and saw it coming. I pushed the guy out of the way and got hit in the arm with the side mirror, and the next day, he tells everyone how he saved my life and how I was crying. Wait, what, dude? You saved his life, and then he started saying that he saved yours and you were crying? Even if you were crying, I can't blame you, dude. If I jumped out of the way of a car and its side mirror hit me at 60 kilometers an hour, I'd probably be crying too. Can you blame anyone? If there's any time I feel like people are allowed to cry and you're not allowed to pass judgment, right after they get hit by a car is definitely up there. You just can't really give them crap after that. So during a really bad snowstorm, I was driving a rear-wheel pickup truck and was also 18 and stupid. I was following a semi going 40 and getting tired of going this slow, so I figured I would pass him. I got just about to the point of going past him and hit a patch of black ice. The back end started fishtailing, and me not having the experience to know what to do, I panicked and slammed on the brakes. Somehow, and I'll never figure this out, what happened was I slowed down enough that the back end swung around the back end of the semi, and I started skidding sideways and then right off the road. Thankfully, it was a flat area, and I managed that sideways skid along the highway for 150 feet while screaming before coming to a stop. So skidding out on a thankfully flat roadside, now facing the opposite direction, completely shocked that my truck didn't flip and was still running like nothing happened and no damage, and my undies weren't soiled. I tried to see about getting myself turned around, but that wasn't happening, and I managed to finally get going forward down the wrong way on the interstate a few hundred yards until I found a crossing and did a U-turn and started again. About 30 minutes later, I caught up with the semi and patiently tailed his butt to the next major city. I promise you it's better to be a little bit patient behind a semi-truck than spin out and then have to catch back up to it just to sit behind him again. For anybody driving, it's just not worth blitzing by anybody at 90 miles an hour, I promise. Anyways, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I would really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comments section down below what you thought. If you made it this far, if you don't mind commenting the word Reddit down below, it just helps the video hit recommended, and I would very much appreciate it. A link to the intro song can be found down below, along with a link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast, or, of course, you could always use code Scrubby at the G Fuel checkout. Great way to get a discount. Last but not least, I do put some of my content up on Spotify, so if you want to check that out, link at the top of the description is going to be a link to my Spotify show, so check that out. Or you could always get the merch. That link's going to be at the bottom of the description, but be sure to check it out. It is the coolest merch to ever exist, and I'd appreciate you getting some. And yeah, on that note, guys, I think that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I will see each and every single one of you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.